Hey, Podcast America. Welcome to episode 17 of the Enlightened Neanderthals podcast. And before we get into the show notes, let's talk about Allegiance Holsters, which you can find at allegianceholsters.com. And they are a North Carolina-based small family-owned business. They can make all of your range holsters, your inside-the-waistband concealed carry holsters, and most importantly of all, they have pre-packaged IFAKs, individual first aid kits. And if you've listened to our show before, you know I say that you should have one in the glove box of your car, you should have one in your backpack, you should have one in your kitchen drawer. Get a couple of these from their website and just kind of have them scattered around everywhere you go, because you never know when you're going to witness a car accident. Because, Mike, you witnessed one today, didn't you?
Yeah, I watched a guy crash into a chicken sign in front of a co-op. It was amazing.
Yeah, and honestly, I've probably witnessed half a dozen car wrecks in my life. Thank God none of them have been like...
involving chicken co-ops.
No chicken co-ops were injured in any of those accidents. But you never know when you're going to see somebody get hurt, and just to have that first aid kit on you at all times is... It's something that's real easy to do. Doesn't weigh much, doesn't take up much space. So allegianceholsters.com and use code TNW10 when you check out. And this episode, we had our friend from the gym, Christy Campbell. She's a entrepreneur. She's a jiu-jitsu person. And Mike, what did we talk about? I always ask you. This is how the intro goes.
We had our friend Christy on, and she is multifaceted. She has multiple businesses. She's motivational. She's conquering fear. She's mastering firearms. She's a jiu-jitsu practitioner working on achieving a higher level of not only jiu-jitsu, but being a good person. It was a fun episode.
Yep. Enjoy it, you guys. We have a special guest in, we call this in studio. We're on the mats.
We're on the mat studio.
We've got Christy Campbell with us here today. She's another friend from our little tribe of jiu-jitsu people here at Electric North. And she is the owner of Fit Me Nutrition. And what do you call the second business?
Coaching Biz Manager.
Okay, and actually, that one I don't know anything about. Do you want to explain a little bit about that one right off the bat here? Actually, hang on, because
Wait.
hang on.
Tell me about yourself, but be quiet.
I was just going to say, let's back up, because I feel like I've heard this story, because you've been on Greg's podcast, you've been on Tyler's podcast, but just in case we don't have complete cross-pollination, where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Salisbury, Maryland, so like right below Delaware is where I grew up, in like a really small place by the beach.
Crab cakes.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Hang on, follow up.
100%.
White clam chowder or red clam chowder?
White, but red Maryland crab soup.
Oh,
Different
yeah.
thing.
Never
Okay.
even heard of that.
Different
crab
thing.
soup.
Yeah, it's like a tomato-based soup.
Huh.
And it's called like Maryland crab soup. It's full of crab, a little bit of
Is
vegetables.
it like their version of a Chiapino?
I've never had Chiapino.
Oh.
You know, in Edmonds, they have a clam chowder like competition.
Oh.
God
It
damn
is
it.
phenomenal.
When
That
is
sounds good.
When is that?
Yeah, I honestly I don't remember when the date is or if they're gonna have it again. But I've gone down there for one, and it was the
Dynamite.
best. Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Check it out.
So
Back to Christy.
Yeah.
Clam chowder topping.
yeah, you see the rabbit holes we go down.
Zing.
Yeah.
Well,
No, it's
Yeah,
fine. It's
it's,
good.
Were you a Navy family? How'd you end up in Maryland?
Actually, my dad was in the Army.
Oh.
So I think we were in like Fort Meade for a little bit.
Oh.
My parents
was
split
he
up.
at NSA?
No, I don't. He wasn't in NSA. I don't know what he did, to be honest, in the Army, because he got out when I was young,
Okay.
and then my parents split up when I was like early teens. But we ended up in Maryland, and so my dad's family's from Delaware, so that's probably why.
Okay. And then how'd you end up in Snohomish County, Washington?
Snohomish County, Washington. So my ex is stationed here
In the Navy.
in the Navy.
That's why I think of the Navy with you.
Yep. And so I've lived here twice. So we lived here like 9.5 years ago. I was here about 18 months and then moved back to Maryland, which is where we were stationed then, lived there for 3 years, and then came back here. And we came back here mostly because I loved it here and I wanted to come back.
Okay.
are there things you miss about the East Coast? Because my dad's side of the family is from Pennsylvania, Delaware, places like that. And just things like food, like getting pizza by the slice everywhere you go is amazing. Pierogies, piroshkis, holipkis, different type of like Russian, Ukrainian, just all these different. Baba ganoush, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I miss the seafood, maybe.
Yeah.
My sister and brother still live on the East Coast, and my dad's still over there, so I miss them.
Yeah.
But I like it out here. I like I like the outdoors. I like the mountains. I like the rivers. I like the lakes, all of it.
Do you find the people different as well?
People are very different.
Like East Coasters are more abrasive, I feel.
They are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just different. It's just very different here.
Maybe not abrasive, but direct, I would say. And like people out here are like, hey, man, let's relax, man.
Passive aggressive.
Yeah.
I don't know. My experience has been
I'll
like,
take direct any day.
like I appreciate that, but like this hard exterior, but then like really soft core. Like,
yeah, I feel like people are people, and it's just like the flavor of like what they project on the outside that's probably different.
Have you been to Florida? Because those aren't real people,
I did.
some
I
of
lived,
them.
I lived in Florida.
Jacksonville.
That's where I lived. That place is crazy.
Yeah.
People eat boiled peanuts in Jacksonville, Florida. It's
Yep,
a crazy
yep.
place.
Hot boiled
Oh,
peanuts.
what?
Yep.
Oh my gosh! So when I was getting out of the Navy, I started bartending, and it's like shit little like a bar that it was just a place to bartend.
Yeah.
And people would bring boiled peanuts and put them on the bar and just pick them apart and eat them, and they would get all over their teeth and all over the thing. They have different flavors of boiled
Are they
peanuts.
soft?
Soft.
Yeah.
And they
what the-
sell them in the side of the road in like brown
not bad.
bags. I mean, they taste like peanut butter a little bit.
Yeah.
You
And they season them and stuff sometimes with different flavors.
Yeah.
I might have to
Jacksonville's.
check that out.
Jacksonville's
That's-
crazy.
You're selling me on Jacksonville. That's what you're doing. If you're
Jordan
trying not
wakes up
to.
Chandra tonight. Hey, wake up. We're boiling peanuts.
Yeah, yeah,
There you go.
Get your party hat on.
yeah. That and fan boats, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Go.
Yeah, Jacksonville's a weird place. So my sister
Yeah.
and I bartended there together, and this was like a really short season of my life. And one night she's like, I'm going out. And I'm like, where are you going? And we were probably like in our early 20s. And some guys took her out to like kill alligators in the middle of the night with some sort of tube that you spike the alligator with. And
yeah,
it
the old
like
A
kill
gaff.
stick.
Yeah.
a kill stick or something. I don't
Yeah.
know. So she went out on this like little boat in the darkness to like kill alligator. I was like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
I mean,
I
that's
thought-
street cred. Your sister's a badass.
That's rad.
I don't know.
That sounds like a good time.
Is she older or younger?
She is a badass, but that was a strange thing to do. Like for anybody, just to be like, let me randomly go with these guys out in the middle of the night and kill alligators.
Out in some boat with two guys. Like I did not think that story was going to
Right,
end with
that's what
killing an alligator.
Yeah,
Hater, you want to go kill an alligator?
Yeah, maybe an anaconda.
Yeah.
But
yeah. No, she's great. She's 4 years younger.
That's a badass younger sister.
Yeah, she is
Hey,
a
what are you
badass.
doing tonight after you get off shift? Well, I'm going to go eradicate some natural predators in the Everglades. I mean,
Yeah.
sounds good.
I know.
that's wild.
Yep.
Did you ever do anything like that?
Um.
Any hunting or anything like that?
No, I'm not. I'm totally for hunting. I'm not like a killer at heart. I've never done it. I'm not against it. I'm all for it. I've just never done it.
What about fishing?
I used to fish a lot as a kid. Like
Yeah.
bluegills and stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Not like big fishing, but
Yeah. No,
yeah,
that's
my brother and I
still
would
fun,
fish
though.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now that you say it, yeah, I've never been hunting. I think it'd be a good experience for me. I would like to have that experience.
Yeah.
Something that you would eat,
Everybody
Yeah.
needs to stab an alligator
Yeah.
in the head.
With the 22.
You're like, your sister stabbed an alligator. What hunting have you done?
How about yourself? Yeah, I mean, a good intro is like bird hunting with a shotgun. Birds don't have that,
Feelings.
fluffy feeling, of
Right.
like, oh, it's, unless you have a pet bird. Sorry, guys.
I tried to
but-
save a baby bird like 2 weeks ago. I know. So
How'd
that's
it
what
work
I'm saying.
out?
I didn't. I gave up because I knew what was going to happen. I've
Jordan
done
will
this
shoot
so
it in a
many
month.
times before.
Hey.
I know.
I got a bird launcher.
And
just
I'm
for
not
him.
I'm not like a PETA, like no animals can die. I just, when I see an animal, I want to try to like save that animal.
Oh, yeah.
Do you
That's
feel like it would be cruel and unusual punishment to raise chickens just to put them in an air cannon and fire them out for your dog?
it wouldn't be for me.
Yeah, me neither. Well, I don't think that I am on a sliding scale of that, and it goes from day to day because there's times where I'll save a spider and take it outside, and there's other days where I'm just stomping on it and
Right.
looking for
Yeah.
kill a dog.
It's kind of like a flip a coin, like a what's that movie? No Country or the book No Country for Old Men.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I kind of feel
Whatever
like
that
walking
Spider's
around.
Day is.
Yeah, just with a ram set gun and just ready to go. Yeah,
It is weird, like,
I had a cat named Burlap, so that.
oh, really?
Yeah.
It is weird how you can, like, I love my animals. I have dogs. I have horses. We have all this stuff. I have cats. I love cuddling in bed and petting my cat with my dog on my lap, but it's like still at the same time, it's like,
Hang on. Are you, in this scenario, what are you wearing?
My pink boa only. Watching Golden Girls and petting my dog and my cat. But it's like, at the same time, though, as much love as you have for animals, it's like, you think about this being like a meat eater and stuff like that, too. It's like, I have no problem going to Tony Roma's and killing a half rack of ribs. But it's like, I can still go to a friend's house that has cows and be like, dude, this is a cool animal. Let's pet it. Let's feed it. Let's be nice.
Yeah, that's that sliding scale I'm talking about. Because like sometimes it's like I want to kill and eat that thing, and then other times, like you said, you go to Buffalo Wild Wings and put down 24 wings, and it's like that was 12 birds they just ate. You know
Just their legs.
Just their legs. Like,
The rest of it's in that air cannon getting shot out.
But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's just I wouldn't be able to be like friends with these animals. You know, like I don't think I would be. Like if I had a farm, for example, I would make sure there's a lot of distance between me and
No
those
petting
animals.
zoo.
You and T-Bone.
Right. I mean, I get a cow from like a local farm every 6 months or so. Like that kind
Nice.
of, I mean,
A full
like
cow?
we get a half cow.
How does that work? Like what's the process for that? You just go and order it? Or?
Yeah, so basically there's a couple different farms that'll do it around here, but you usually tell them pretty far in advance that you want.
It's usually like 9 months. It's as the calf is born. You're basically buying the calf when it's born.
And what they tell you is they're like, we're going to be in touch sometime this year or later when we harvest the animal. And
But
then
they're not sending you like picture updates or anything?
No.
This is Moo Moo.
This is Moo Moo.
Potty training.
Adopt a Moo Moo and like it's on your fridge or something. No. So then they just tell you, and you really don't get a lot of notice. They'll usually have you put down a deposit like $150 or something like that. And then they'll tell you, hey, we're harvesting the animal next week. Like the butcher's going to call. And so what they'll do is I don't know what process they do to harvest the animal, but then they send it to the butcher, and then you talk to the butcher about how you want the cuts done. And then you just go, and usually you just pay the butcher, and they'll pay the farm.
Oh, there you go.
Did you get to pick like how it was finished or what it was fed? Because we've done it a couple times, and we got those options. And
We didn't get to pick that piece, but it was like primarily grass-fed.
Yeah. Did they
I
corn
believe
finish?
it was grain finished.
Yeah. I love fat in it. I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not
yeah.
mad.
Yeah.
But we did a pig too. That was great.
Yeah, nice.
Totally great.
Yeah.
That's the big difference one.
Yes.
If there's one that you want to night and day taste the difference between, store bought versus like coming from a farm, it's pig.
Really?
Okay.
Night and day.
Is it better?
1,000 times better.
Really?
Yeah. It's expensive, I think.
What's the cost of something like
I
that?
can't remember, to be honest. I'd have to look. But I just remember thinking to myself, man, that was way more than I thought it was going to be.
But
Yeah.
worth it in taste.
Oh,
and
worth
quality.
it. Like you're getting pork steaks and you're going to eat it like it's a regular steak. You're
Oh,
gonna be like,
really?
Oh,
Yeah.
shit.
this is a situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
And the
good to know.
bacon's like,
I already like pork chops.
Pork chops are
to
great.
begin with. So
yeah.
yeah, if we're taking it up a notch, then
Oh, they're awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to find out after. We'll find out what.
Yeah,
farm
I'll get
and
you the farm.
I'd go.
I
I'd go
was
half-
just gonna say I'd split a hog with you,
I'll split a hog with you, brother.
and we're
Yeah.
not talking about at the bar.
Yeah, totally worth it though.
Okay. That would be fun to do a pig. I was gonna say pig roast, but I can't.
Pig roast would be amazing.
Yeah.
That'd be
I've
fun.
always wanted
bury
to-
it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Hawaiian style.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
We've done
Fire
that.
dance before we uncover it. Yeah. Heck yeah.
We did that before for a friend's birthday, and it turns into a good party because you got to get together the night before to dig the pit and light the fire and put the pig in there.
It's a 24-hour event. Yeah.
It's a two-night party.
That sounds great to me.
Yeah.
That and I'd like to do a crawfish boil.
Oh, that's like what Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Yeah,
maybe
heading
I
down
got some
south.
Jacksonville in my blood or
I
something.
I think you would thrive in Florida,
I was just
Jordan.
gonna say, I could see
This is
Jordan as
Florida,
Florida
man.
man.
Yeah.
Compliment.
Big compliment, dude. You'll do well.
Oh goddamn.
You'd be the king.
All right, so you moved back here,
Yep.
and did you start Fit Me Nutrition here, or did you start it on the East Coast?
So before I moved here the first time, so 9.5 years ago, I think. So the year before that was sort of my year of like creating a healthy lifestyle. Before that, it wasn't that I was a total disaster, but sort of a series of life events had led me to that place of being like 40 or 50 pounds overweight, not working out, like feeling like this is going to be my life as a mom, as an adult, like totally stuck. for a couple years. Like baby weight had become body weight. It wasn't baby weight anymore.
Yeah.
And I've had 10 knee surgeries from my time in the Navy. And at that point I was like, I guess I'll never be able to do sports again. I loved sports growing up. Yeah. That was my thing. Yep. And so I had kind of gotten away from like feeling like an athlete, quite overweight, struggling, had recently had like another big surgery and was just sort of stuck. So the year before I moved out here was my year of sort of just reclaiming myself. I met a really great coach just because I had done all the things that everybody does, like the stupid like diets. I'd seen my mom diet her whole life. So I was like, this is what you do when you try to lose weight, and nothing worked.
Oh, yeah. Snackwell's cookies, like the 80s the style diet.
Slim Fast.
Yeah, and Weight Watchers and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, this is how you do it. Or I would work out or try to do cardio to lose weight because I was like, oh, that's what you're supposed to do. Yep. And nothing worked. I was just like, well, I guess I'm doomed to be overweight. Like, this is my birthright or something. But that year, I ran into a really great coach. He was just like a regular dude, like a guy training at World Gym, and was like, will you come to my class in the park? And I was like, I don't know. I could think of 17 reasons why I couldn't go. My knee, kids. My boys were really little at the time, like maybe 2 and 4. I was like, I'm overweight, can't do any of those things. Like, why would I ever go? And I just went. And the first class, couldn't do anything. Nothing. Like I couldn't do one push-up, no bear crawl, nothing. It was all torture. But in that class, he like walked past me and he was like, I see an athlete in there. And it was like in that one little thing, a coach can see something in you can't see. Yep. And he kind of made me want to come back. Okay. And I just kept going back. And I spent a year rebuilding my body and learning how to eat for the first time. Yeah. Because nobody had ever taught me that stuff. So,
well, our generation, think about what we were actually taught was healthy.
Yeah.
Well, Pop-Tart commercials were all over in the 80s, and growing up, it's like,
and Frosted Flakes were made with whole grains.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's how we ate. I mean, Gushers. I mean, I used to eat 3 Otis Spunkmeyer cookies and a bag of popcorn for lunch.
Oh, Jesus.
That was lunch.
I see you a slice of pizza, and that was my same lunch in high school.
I can still taste that pizza.
Yeah.
Chicken patty day was like the best day.
Yeah.
But that's how we ate.
Dude, we got a potato bar, I remember, in like middle school or high school, and it was like...
Is that a potato bar?
Oh, yeah. And we're like, this is going to be so healthy. And it's like you get a potato and you load it with butter, sour cream, cheese, bacon, cheese.
Nacho cheese.
Everything. And you're like, this is health.
Yeah.
Get some Velveeta and some bacon bits on there.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, cereal. We all ate all that nonsense,
Yeah.
Nutty Buddy bars.
But it's so weird that was what, like...
The food pyramid, just look at it.
Yeah, because I was born in 83.
Me too, yeah.
Okay, and it's like growing up, I was a product of, like... I love pop culture and TV and like I'll watch old commercials just for nostalgia and be like, yeah, that was cool. Remember back in the day,
like the old Hot Wheels commercials.
Yeah, but just everything from like from drinks,
VH1's pop videos.
Yeah, kind of that stuff. But like if you look at it, everything was so consumer based.
Like Fruitopia, do you remember those?
Yeah,
those commercials.
Yeah. Dunkaroo. I mean, but it was so consumer based and driven towards like kids.
Yes.
Like TV in the past was driven towards adults, but like in the 80s and 90s, it really was driven towards children and toys and sugar.
Oh, yeah.
And
it was all TV was like every show was an advertisement for Hasbro toys or General Mills and Coca-Cola.
And we wonder why people have like an obesity epidemic.
Right.
And it's like, listen, you guys didn't give us the proper tools to learn, or just
but, I mean,
what
even,
you tried
even
to
from the authorities, you had the food pyramid, which had like grains and sugars at the bottom, and then
it's
you
upside
had,
down.
Was it like Nancy Reagan who said ketchup's a vegetable?
Yeah.
Like that quality.
And then they're like the diet industry that's when it was like really making its gains.
Yeah.
Like that's when Weight Watchers got big. That's when Oprah was like losing her weight in all the different ways. So people lost weight with like Medifast and Weight Watchers and Slim Fast and all of those things. And so healthy.
You know what's funny is when I was in my early 20s, we used to drink Slim Fast as like a bulking. Like Greg and I were both trying to make it to the 200-pound club. And so like between meals, we'd be drinking Slim Fast.
Like 4 or 5 of them, yeah.
I'm cultivating mass, bro.
That's funny. Those cans have a funny taste, huh? Those like metal taste
I'm
cans.
Sure
Cancer.
Cancer.
She
can
taste like
the
cancer. That's really what it is.
Is that chocolate? No, it's cancer flavor.
Chalky cancer.
Well, like the 80s, like the movies and everything too started having like Rocky and all those, the fit, that was where people are starting to look at that and go, oh.
Jazzercise, Richard Simmons, like all the muscle dudes of the 80s. And that's when I think you kind of saw a lot more like steroids come into film. Because it's like, remember the 70s, you would have like a Bronson or like Newman, who was a guy on the set, who's
Paul Newman?
Paul Newman, right? And his body was kind of like slim and like
they're just slender.
Yeah.
They look like normal people.
But then in the 80s, like you had your Rockies, your Schwarzenegger, your Van Dammes, and like fitness became an explosion.
Right.
But like
it was all bodybuilding.
It was so weird. It was like not normal life fitness.
Yeah,
it was like aspirational or like superhero character kind of fitness or like jazzercise lady fitness, you know? Yeah, I mean, that's really how I ate. So the funny thing is like that year of learning how to eat was more just learning really obvious stuff. Like, for example, like don't eat out so much and like don't drink your calories and like you probably need to eat more protein and just simple, like don't drink your calories. But just nobody had ever told me. Like that sounds so dumb, but I was still under the impression that I could like buy my diet food to lose weight, and nobody ever just said like eat more often at home than you do out. Yeah. Like don't drink very much, like don't have so much sugar, and eat more protein. Like eat enough so that you're recovering from your workouts. And really that's all he taught me. So I was working out hard, I was lifting weights, I was going to these classes, I was walking my face off. Like I was walking all the time, and I learned how to eat, and it was that simple. And so that 1 year I became at the end of the year, I was like, well, this is what I'm doing. I quit my job that I was doing at the time, which was working for a nonprofit that I did after I got out of the Navy. And I was like, I'm doing this. And so I certified online as a personal trainer, and I moved out here and I started a class in the park.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
So she didn't start with like the diet and nutrition stuff. You started with straight up.
I started with training
workout routines.
Yeah. Okay. So I started a class in the park and taught a boot camp class in the park that I decided to start in January.
Oh yeah.
In Washington State.
At this point, had you lost that weight? That weight came off, and you were.
I had sort of like. I always tell people that yes, like my body transformed. I'd lost 45 pounds or so. I was feeling good. But really, I just felt like me again, all of a sudden. And so then
45 pounds is substantial.
A lot. I'm only 5'4", so that was a lot of weight. And again, on my knee, like that was a lot of weight on my knee too. So I was like, I just want to give this to other people. And all I knew was what he had done, the class in the park, right? He invited me to. So I was like, that's what I'm going to do. So when I moved out here, it was really funny because I didn't know anybody, 0 people. And I was like, I'm going to start a class in the park in January. So,
oh my God, bring your jacket.
Yeah. So I got a couple pieces of equipment like from Facebook Marketplace, and I just started inviting people, and nobody came for weeks. Yeah. For weeks and weeks, nobody came, and I just kept going. I'd show up at Lake Stevens Community Park by myself on Saturday mornings at 8:00. Nobody would come, and then eventually people started coming, and I found CrossFit Lake Stevens, which is right downstairs. And I had found CrossFit and started going right before I'd moved here. And so I was still pretty new, but I started attending CrossFit. And then probably 6 months later, I was coaching CrossFit here. Okay. And so then I spent that year teaching my class in the park, doing personal training and coaching CrossFit.
Yeah. Well, I want to back up just a second and kind of emphasize the point of how many, if you had to estimate, how many classes do you think you scheduled where nobody showed up?
In the beginning, probably, it was probably like 4 or 5 weeks worth.
Yeah. And so I've recently, Training Northwest is barely a year old. And so in the beginning, nobody knew I existed. Nobody knew what was going on. The only way I got people into class was by giving them away for free to people at work. Mm-hmm. So anybody who's thinking about starting a business.
What's up, guys? Got a lot of that early Training Northwest.
Yeah. Well, but at the same time, you guys were my guinea pigs, and I was building my curriculum and my lesson plans.
Around me.
Yeah. Around. Yeah. But it's like it's just something that people should know. If you're thinking of going into business for yourself, don't expect to hang your shingle and be an instant success. You have to take some serious losses long before you're gonna see any success.
We were literally talking about that in the sauna. Just
were you really?
45. No, me and you were. You were like, sure. I was like, man,
dude,
I'd
I was almost blanked out in the song.
He was like, 2 more minutes. I go, I'm trying to figure out what to do. He's like, well, you just got to understand that, you're going to have to throw some money at it and it might not work out for a little while, but just keep doing it. And then you're like, I got to go. So funny.
I was getting that, man, when you start getting into that like 12, 13 minute mark, you start feeling a little desperate and you're just staring at the door handle like, I could just get up and walk out. I don't need to be in here.
It's crazy in there. I start at the top, and then I get down, and then I throw my phone out, and then once I've like gotten rid of everything that's burning me, then I get out.
Yeah. Oh, man. Okay, so that's how you started Fit Me Nutrition.
Kind of, yeah. So the one part that I would skip is that was out here, so it was just mostly training people, no nutrition. And then when I moved to Maryland, I went full-time coaching CrossFit and weightlifting. I spent 3 years running a large gym and doing that as my full-time job. And what I loved about it was allowed me to like really learn bodies and learn how to build strength, learn how to teach people things, learn how to coach, because I got tons of reps. I mean, this was just what I did all day, every day. But then what I started realizing is that people struggled with the rest of the day. They could come into the gym, but they didn't know how to eat. And although I loved coaching people in CrossFit and weightlifting, those people had already achieved what a lot of people are hoping to achieve, which is like some measure of a healthy lifestyle. Yeah. They were already in the gym. Like maybe they wanted to lose 10, 15 pounds or something, but they weren't trying to lose 50 pounds, right? They were just there's always a few, but for the most part, they're
already in the lifestyle.
They're in the lifestyle. And I started to think like, I really want to help people who were stuck like I was stuck.
Yeah.
And who had it, like what didn't make sense to me, and I think a lot of women feel like this a lot, is that they have it together in a lot of other areas of their life. Like they're a professional. Maybe they're like really good at their job, or they're like really capable, or they're like really good mom, or they're like really good. They just can't figure out that body piece. They're like, why am I screwed up here? Yeah. Why can't I lose weight? Like this seems like everywhere else I can do it. Why can't I do this? And so that's like they almost treat it like a character flaw. Mm-hmm. There's something wrong with them. So then I felt like this is actually what I need to do. I need to help people with the rest of their day, and I need to help women who are stuck like I was stuck. And that's when I founded Fit Me.
Okay.
And so then that is an online nutrition company that helps people create that healthy lifestyle.
And is it purely nutrition, or do you add in the workout routines as well?
I would say that it's primarily nutrition, but we do give people workouts.
Okay.
We do.
Do you find yourself finding like one specific thing constantly comes up with like part of the problem, like of their diet, or like is there like guilty pleasures like sodas, or like I only indulge late night eating, or like I'm a successful worker, I'm so busy during the day that I go home and I just gorge food until I go to bed. Whereas like you're trying to give them a healthy lifestyle, and you're like, hey, maybe break up our meals so we have a breakfast, a snack, a lunch, so that we give ourselves food and we don't go home and just raid the pantry. Mm-hmm. Do you find overlap in clients and stuff, or everyone's kind of their own individual case?
I think the biggest overlap is it's not what you think. I mean, certainly I meet people who are eating garbage all the time. I mean, like, and they know that they're struggling with that. They're eating fast food all the time. They're overdoing it. Most of the women though that I work with in Fit Me and that come it doesn't sound like that though. It more sounds like this perpetual state of like self-neglect is the way I would describe it, or like a misalignment of priorities where they have neglected learning how to take care of themselves. And that's where like the ownership piece comes into place. It's not anybody's fault except our own when our bodies aren't being taken care of.
I feel like that's an easy excuse to make. Oh, I'm busy taking care of the kids. I got to run them to practice. I got to be up early for work, blah, blah, blah. And then you go, you know what? I just don't have time for
me
eating healthy. And that's one of the things I harp on like at work a lot is like, guys, it takes 8 minutes to fry 2 eggs in the morning.
But it is a habit. Excuse. And that's where I tell people, I'm like, you haven't done something wrong. Your priorities are out of whack. And it's not an excuse, because at the end of the day, you don't feel good. You don't look good. You're not happy. Your body doesn't like have the energy you want it to have. You're not at a good body weight. And so what it ends up looking more like, to answer your question, is skipping breakfast, rushing around doing things, taking the kids to wherever, or getting to work, or doing whatever, eating like usually drinking sugar, some kind of like coffee, Starbucks drink, something like that.
Yeah.
Eating out lunch, which is just convenience, whatever's convenient. So that's not typically healthy. Crashing in the afternoon because they didn't have anything great so far. So then more sugar required.
Yeah.
Still nothing substantial has been eaten really in their day, typically at this point. They come home hungry.
Yeah.
4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, it's like juggling whatever's happening. And that's when the snacking starts. And it's mindless snacking. It's like, let me grab something from the pantry, whatever. And then dinner tends to be, America food.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily like fast food all the time. It's convenient. It could be pasta. It could be like whatever. So they just overdo it on that. Still never having had anything substantial. And then in the evening, super stressed out and tired, more sugar required and or wine.
Yeah.
And so then you've got this like perfect scenario of weight gain. And then you add in social occasions, which people find excuses
food
for.
and alcohol.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you add in mostly sedentary.
Yeah.
And then if anything, then you add in the perfect storm of once or twice a year doing some sort of diet where they dramatically reduce calories for a 6-week window, burn muscle, and lower their metabolic function anyway. Yeah. So they're just burning their calorie burning machine for 6 weeks out of the year while they do whatever low calorie thing, and then they gain more weight back afterwards. And so it's not so much of like eating McDonald's all the time. It's more of just like, again, it's a mixture of like priorities being out of whack, never having dedicated the time to create the routine to take care of themselves, and then also genuinely wanting to do good for other people. Like most of the time they're like, I really do want to be there for my work, for my church, for my friends, for my kids, for my husband, for my whatever. But I'm like, what about taking care of you? Yeah. And so then it's just really hard to make that shift.
So you feel like putting that person on their own daily schedule or their daily calendar, like I've got to drop Billy off at soccer practice, then I got to go run errands at work. But if you put more of yourself in little slots on your daily calendar or agenda, that kind of, the food will follow, the good decisions and the food choices. It's easier to then start making, kind of on a trajectory for better because you're allowing these little moments for you. Instead of you want to be a nice person and you want to do good for your job and do good for your kids, the only way you can do that is making sure you schedule yourself into that.
Well, I almost think you should prioritize yourself, and a metaphor for that is like think when you're on an airline and they tell you if we lose altitude and the oxygen masks drop down, they say put yours on first before you help your kids, because if you pass out, then you're no good to anybody. And the same thing in the military, we used to hold the medics back. Like the medics aren't up like kicking down doors and whatnot, because if we get hit, we need them to treat us. Yeah. So if it's your job to take care of everybody else, you kind of need to prioritize yourself so that you're at, firing on all cylinders. You're your best version of yourself when you're taking care of them.
And this is kind of where like coaching really, I feel like, is the secret sauce here, because each person's way that I would approach that would be different, right? Like for some people, you can anchor something like a workout routine, and that anchor starts to change the food habits. It starts to change what you guys are talking about. Like, okay, now I've got this time scheduled that I'm going to do this thing, and so now I want to eat better, and now I want to do this. For other people, it might just be as simple as shifting breakfast. And then for other people, it might be building a walking routine. For other people, it might be creating boundaries. Like just the simple concept of like, I don't have to buy this food and put it in my house is new to people.
Yeah.
And so if I'm like, don't put it in your house. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, like for real, this is it was a big thing for me. Cause I was just like, okay, well my kids want Chick-fil-A, so we're going Chick-fil-A. And it never dawned on me that like fast food could just be a boundary that I set for me and my family. Yeah. And then when I did, I was like, oh, we never went back.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of people need permission to say like, I'm not going to buy that crap and put it in my house. Instead, if we're going to have a treat, we'll just go out and get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one that works well for me, is just not having it in the house, because I hate traffic so much. And the grocery store is like, it's like a mile from my house. But I'll be like, if it's not in the cupboard, there's no chance I'm going to go get in the car and drive to the grocery store, because it's like 8 traffic lights, and it's like, fuck that. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, yeah, just not having it in the cupboard is really...
Bringing the devil into your house is only going to create chaos.
So it's just building the pieces. And for each person, it's a little different how you do that, which is what I love doing. Because if you want to make those changes, then you're willing to start to do it. And again, most of the time, it's not too hard. Yeah. It's not impossible, but it does require editing, like learning how to say no,
Yeah.
A lot of women struggle with being able to say no, like, no, thanks. I don't want to. No, I can't stay after for 2 hours after work today and do the thing. I actually have to go to the gym. I'm doing that. They struggle with that. Yeah. And so just creating some of those, I don't know, sometimes teaching people language around this is like part of what coaching is.
Yeah.
So it's the big picture. It's like, how do you create a healthy lifestyle? Because at the end of the day, my goal is to take them from, just like I needed, to go from that place where I was super stuck looking for quick solutions, but I really wasn't solving the problem, to just creating the healthy lifestyle. Because then you're 85, 90% of the way there. After that, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Then you can just live.
Yeah. Yeah. I have my 80-20 rule, which is 80% healthy food. And then that leaves me room to sit up here on a Saturday evening and drink a couple beers.
Right.
But my question for you is, do you have strong thoughts on breakfast? Because we grew up hearing breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Now you're hearing more and more people say they like to do like an intermittent, like 18-hour fast from dinner until lunch the next day. My personal thought is I eat every morning I eat 3 eggs, and sometimes I add in like they call it like God damn it. It's from First Form. It's like this little packet of greens that you mix in water. But then I don't really get hungry again until late afternoon. And then I'll have an apple. Like I'll have an apple mid-morning and like a real small lunch. But because I'm eating sort of quality food, like you get all your nutrients. When you get all your nutrients,
stay full.
Yeah, exactly. You don't get hungry again because it's not garbage.
I'll go a day or two sometimes without eating. And then the next day, it's like, just gorge on steak.
The next day
and
he wipes peanut butter all over his chest, and then he scoops it up with moon pies.
No, I don't eat shit food. I mean, occasionally I do, but sometimes it's like I'll go a day or even a day and a half, sometimes 2, and it's like I won't eat. I know when my body's like, hey, I'm thirsty, and like you've got kind of fat reserves, but it's like I'm okay until.
And there's also this voice in your head that's like, again, I'll be at work and there'll be whatever chips or whatever snacks people bring in. I'm like, oh, I want some of that. But then you think about it and you're like, my belly's actually full.
I'm not hungry.
Like, I'm not even close. Not only am I not hungry, I'm not even.
Though.
No.
I don't think we're blessed.
No, but
That's not true. Because
I think that's self-control and like a little bit of self-awareness.
I'm pretty sure you followed me for a year, and that's what you were just talking about, because that's exactly how, like, twice a year I get a wild stick up my ass where I'm like, you know what, I am going to go carnivore. Like, here I go. So I'm a week on that. I'm a week on not drinking. I'm like, let's see how long this one lasts, boys. I don't have a kitchen in my house, so I'm constantly just eating out and doing all that stuff. And like, I'm
describing you.
Yeah, I was like, exactly. It's just like, this is exactly what, like, son of a
There's
bitch.
one tear rolling down his cheek as she's talking.
I do need to put myself first.
Mike and I actually invited Christy in here to have an intervention.
Your intervention. I just
Jordan,
think
we love you.
it's very different. Like, what do I think about breakfast? I mean, maybe you don't need to eat breakfast. Maybe Jordan does need to eat breakfast. I'm just kidding. But like the actual science behind it is that certainly there's benefits to fasting. So I'm not going to talk about that because it's so an animal. But in terms of like how much nutrition you get in and when, it's fine. Like whatever works for you is fine. Yeah. And so you can eat it all in one window, or you can spread it out into 17 meals if you want to. Yeah. It does not matter. If you're trying to lose weight, you're going to be in a calorie deficit. If you're trying to gain weight, you need to be in surplus. Yep. Most of us live right around maintenance. So it's kind of just whatever works for you. When I was saying you guys were blessed, what I'm saying is that even what you're describing is very foreign to some people. Like the idea of looking at a donut and being like, yeah, I'm already full. Like, and I get it that feels like discipline, but for other people, it doesn't feel like that, because the sensation of feeling full from a breakfast that had like quality protein and fat in it isn't a thing. Yeah. It's a perpetual state of feeling fatigued and like searching for a little bit of a pick-me-up that they're in. So you almost have to break that cycle first.
I got you. Yeah. You got to get all the shit out of the system so that the system functions correctly before the system can go, you know what, we're not hungry.
Which is why for most of my clients and Fit Me clients, I recommend eating a breakfast that's high in protein. Like, I don't want you eating a bowl of cereal. That's doing 0 for you. Or a muffin from Starbucks. 0. So
have you tried those Magic Spoon Or like those
No,
protein
I've seen the
cereals.
thing. I've seen it. I'd probably eat a box of that because, again,
Do they taste like
80s
chocolate?
Kids.
Dude, it tastes so
here's
good,
the
but I'm
problem.
like, I'm getting so much protein. Give me another bowl.
If it tastes like chocolate, it's probably not good for you.
And my thing also too is like when someone's at a healthy body weight and a really good body fat percentage, if you want to like dick around with carnivore twice a year, go for it, right? Like you're already in a great place. Like do whatever you want. Like if you want to fast for 3 days, awesome. But when someone's 30, 40, 50 pounds overweight and they're trying to find the solution, those tend to not help.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're still trying to use it as the solution. I'm not saying it doesn't help people because I know there are people who have used fasting or a feeding window or even carnivore or paleo to lose a substantial amount of weight and keep it off, but they became that person. They became the person who loves paleo.
Yeah.
It wasn't like...
Well, I think there's a point where you find a goal. So, like, in order to keep that going, like, if you put yourself and you dive deep into like, okay, I'm gonna get heavy into paleo, I'm gonna get heavy into carnivore, I'm gonna get heavy in just to exercise and eat clean, like you said, you're gonna find like that 1 hour window where you're gonna go work out or whatever, and you make that your world and then base things off that, and that becomes like something you're interested in and truly interested in, and you're doing it because you enjoy it.
And you become that person.
You become that person. It's a lot easier, right? So like wrestling, it was easy to lose weight or do this or do that, and I watched guys cut crazy weight to,
right.
get into that position, but the little tricks and tips around it, like obviously that was when we were younger. So like you said, when you were younger, you were an athlete and it was natural and it was just normal, right? And it didn't really necessarily matter what you were doing.
Right.
But you had something that kept you active and going to constantly.
But you could imagine, like, if you had a friend who was, say he's like 240 and he's like, Jordan, I bought one of those suits that wrestlers use.
Sweatsuit.
Yeah.
And I'm going to wear it. And
Yeah,
I'm
oh,
going to
yeah.
do a cut this weekend. You'd be like, dude, that's not the solution.
No, why don't you come into the room and like get, and
Right.
exactly. And that's
And so
like,
that's what I mean. Like a lot of times people abuse these things as like another fad diet. And
Yeah.
that's where I feel like it's like not helpful.
It never lasts.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's
they're on a
because they haven't
90-day
become that
streak
person
or a
yet.
30-day streak. Yeah, they're looking for something. And this actually, what you're saying about people not even understanding the cycle they're in. I have a friend from the Army who he was just like Greg and I. He was fit, strong, could run. And the last time I saw him, he'd gotten huge. And it's like, and he's like telling me about health problems. And I was like, dude, okay. I said, okay, first of all, tell me what you eat. And he's like, oh, I usually just grab some of my kids' Pop-Tarts as I'm headed out in the morning because I'm in a hurry. And I was like, man, just give yourself literally 10 minutes to cook a couple eggs, and you just got to stop eating that shit and tell your wife to stop buying it because
Right.
it's not good for your kids either. But the resistance to that is like, no, man, no, I can't. He's not even willing to think about it. It's an absolute, like, no, I can't change that part of my life. And the other thing, and you guys, you'll appreciate this, having spent some time down in Florida, is in the South, everybody drinks that goddamn sweet tea, which it's
Oh,
delicious.
yeah.
Arnold
I used to
Palmer
make
and
it.
sweet teas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We would dump like
Oh my God.
tons of sugar into this.
Bag.
It's
I'm
got to
not
be
kidding.
twice.
Yeah.
It's got to be twice the amount of sugar
Oh,
of a
yeah.
can of Coke and one glass of sweet tea. But if you're out at dinner, you'll get a couple refills. You know what I mean? And it's like these guys are like, "Oh, I don't drink alcohol; it's bad for you." It's like, dude, you're pounding sugar.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and again, like I think every person, it's not that every person needs something different. I think at the end of the day, that's sort of true. But at the end of the day, most people need to do some strength training. They need to get off their butt and do some walking. They need to eat real food with a good amount of protein in it. And they need to limit the sugar and the alcohol. That's the recipe.
Yeah.
And that's hard. If you have not lived like that ever,
Yeah.
it is easier said than done.
Yep. So that's a good synopsis right there. And let's move on to the second
Sure.
business, because I've known your Fit Me for a couple of years now since you talked about it on Greg's podcast, but I didn't realize you have a second business because you talked to me about it a little bit last weekend. I want to hear more about that.
Sure. Yeah, it's new actually. So I founded it with two friends, and what it is, it's software, and I'm not like a software person, but if you run a online company, which is what I've been doing for the past 4 or 5 years, you actually need to be able to have a page that people go to, and you need to be able to email them, and you need to be able to communicate with them and have a website and all those things together. And that sounds like pretty straightforward, but most people who run in a business are doing that in a whole bunch of different places. And so what we did is we put together a service for primarily nutrition coaches, but really for any business could use it that does all those things in one place. And really so I have Fit Me, and then I have this business, which is like helping people run their business. So it's kind of like both pieces.
So do you guys design and build the website for them?
We can, but mostly we just teach them how to do it.
I got you.
And it's pretty straightforward, because at the end of the day, it's not super like code or techie. It's less about that and more about actually having a system or a strategy to what you're doing. So for example, that's the piece that most business owners are missing, is they're just like, oh, I just put up a page and whatever, but they're not thinking, okay, well, somebody signed up for that page. I should probably send them a follow-up email. And then I should probably invite them to the next free thing. And then I should probably send them like this cool thing so that they build even more trust.
You just described me in Training Northwest.
And you're not alone. And that's what I was doing too for a long time with Fit Me. I would just be like, I'm a great coach, like sign up, or like I would put something out there and the next thing would be random.
She knows us.
As I say, she described Jordan, now she's describing me.
Yeah, but I think that's also part of a coaching thing is like, like when you're connecting with a person or when someone's giving you tons of positive feedback and they're in that loop. And like, if you start to distance yourself from people, they're going to probably distance themselves from you. And so like having a web page or a site that's tailored more towards having constant communication or just being available or having it tailored towards, a performance or just a free speech or, communication. And it probably makes the client feel more involved the more.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like what it is the old version is websites. Like everybody used to look for a website. Now you might reference a website real quick just to make sure somebody's not like totally, like
now it's your app.
It's not the website. Usually it's something else that got your attention. So maybe it's like a post that you made that you're like, hey, here's my like 5 things that I would recommend like looking at before you purchase your first firearm.
Yeah.
Here's my free thing, my free,
content.
Yeah. And so then now I just got that because I was thinking about buying my first firearm. And then next thing you know, I get an email next weekend that's like, hey, women's only class, are you interested? And I'm like, I am interested. Oh, I don't even have to have a gun. Perfect, because I don't have a gun. You just gave me the thing that said I didn't have a gun. And then I don't come. Well, then I get an email 2 weeks later is like, what do you need to know before you buy your first firearm? So then it's like you're just serving people better by having a plan on how to communicate with them. And so that's the part that I love, because it's like I love people. That's what I love about coaching. And so now I get to help like business owners or coaches do that better.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's fun.
Okay. So I've seen, I follow you on Instagram. Do you do like TikTok and Twitter and other social medias?
Not really.
Pretty girls dance like this. My top 5 reasons why I like dieting with.
I don't know, because I don't think I'm a particularly good influencer. I think I just try to show.
I liked your clown videos. I thought
God,
those were so hilarious. I wish you did more. What was it?
Bullshit the clown.
The clown.
Bullshit the clown.
Dude,
yeah, that was awesome.
I don't know this.
I made them like a year ago, and then I was like, this is ridiculous.
Dude, no, they're awesome.
I know what we're doing at Pee Break.
Yeah, it was basically like me pretending to be like the nonsense that people say, or like. So I put a weight belt.
Did you dress up like a clown?
I did, and that's what I'm saying. It was like a character thing.
Hang on,
Christy, they're awesome.
We're gonna have to blow up a poster and put it up on the
Bullshit the clown
downstairs on the mat room.
So the funny thing is like I did get, most people said that they really liked them, but they also kind of teased me for it because I did dress up like a clown. But the ultimate irony is that my first business ever was as a clown.
Oh, are you shitting?
What?
No.
What? Were you a
Back up.
Hold on.
Hang on.
This was your business?
I was
important announcement. Podcast America.
Yeah. I didn't.
Everybody,
work for
listen up.
I was 12, I think.
Okay.
All right.
And I needed to make money, and I have no idea why I thought this was a great idea. Because it's one of those stories where now in retrospect, it kind of makes you a little bit sad to hear it. 'Cause it's like a happy, sad story. Because I thought, okay, well, and I don't know why I thought I could do magic tricks. And like, I got the book on magic tricks.
Just this 12-year-old like shit magic.
So, okay.
Oh my God.
To set the stage, first off, like as a child, my brother and I, he's 2 years younger than me. I had short hair. So he and I looked like twins. Like the majority of my life before hitting puberty, People could not tell. Are you showing him the video? Jordan.
Bullshit
No.
the clown. I love it.
Jordan, you don't know,
That's
Jordan's
funny.
usually on YouTube while we're
scrolling
talking.
YouTube?
Yeah.
So as a child, I had short hair. I looked identical to my brother, so we looked like twins. And I played boys sports, boys soccer, boys baseball, all the things. So most of the time, I could hear in the background parents being like, "Is that a boy or a girl?" Like it was always that kind of thing, right? Because they couldn't tell. I was a little kid,
Yeah.
So anyways, around 12, I thought it'd be a great idea to make some money that I would do magic tricks and be a clown at birthday parties.
Yes.
I don't. Who knows?
Entrepreneurial
Birthday parties were
spirit.
hot.
Hang on.
You know what I mean? That was
So-
like,
Who hasn't had that idea at one point in their lives?
So
Can
I
you
learned,
do balloon animals?
I did balloon animals. So
shit.
I could do the couple tricks and I would get paid money. I'd show up to like little kids' birthday parties, do a bunch of tricks and whatever. And I had this clown outfit that my mom made me. It was ridiculous. And I would paint my face white and it was just, I looked so silly. And I did this for a little while. But the part that I think is sort of like the tragic,
Christy Gacy here.
I know. It's like the tragic coming of age story because when you become like 12 and 13, all of a sudden you do start to care what other people think,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You go from like innocence, clown is a great idea.
Yeah, bullshit the clown is not the 7th grade nickname
Rolling
that
around
you
and all
want.
this.
So all of a sudden I was like, I don't want to have short hair anymore. Like I want to have long hair. Like I want to look like a girl. And then it was like, I would like people to like me.
Oh my God.
What was your clown name?
Bullshit.
I don't know.
Oh, no, you know
I
it.
don't know. I don't think I had it. I think it was just Christy. It was like even worse because it was just my regular name. Yeah. But I do remember this. It was probably 6th, 7th grade when I remember that I thought maybe my mom had suggested this, that it would be a good idea that like I make balloon animals at like my own school's fair.
Oh, man.
The long exhale is perfect.
Just
And
social suicide.
saying,
Go, thanks,
that's
Mom.
what I'm saying. That was the end of the clown because I just remember making balloon animals till my like fingers were bleeding and like looking at the girls in their cute little shorts and I'm like dressed as a clown.
Size 17 floppy shoe. Well, hi guys. Yeah.
That's
my
exactly
God.
how it was. And so I think that was the end of the clown. Until,
Yeah.
20
brought
years
it back.
later,
Dusted off the old clown nose.
busted the clown nose and brought it back. But yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna be 40 this summer, and I am terrified of
You're not
clowns
40 yet?
still. Not yet.
God dang it.
My
Yep.
boyish good looks. Sorry, buddy.
I'll be 40 this fall.
40 club.
83.
Oh, man.
Yep.
You have no excuse.
No, dude. Not at all. No, 33.
You're our hope. You're the next generation.
33.
Yeah.
Nice. But yeah, I don't know if that answered the question. It was a long way around, but
Yeah.
that is the
I
other
forget
business.
what the question was. I
think
just
we're-
got distracted by clowns. My clowns.
I was just gonna
Clowns
say,
are
I wanted
scary.
to know what the second business was. and
That's
then-
what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it really, again, like, is it websites and tech? Sure. But really it's helping people communicate better to their person, helping them serve them better, helping them like kind of differentiate themselves from some of like the bullshit out there, like the bullshit, the clown kind of stuff. Like if small businesses have the ability to deliver something better, I think
Yeah.
a lot of times.
They don't have corporate hoops and like PR or like all these,
Right.
you can just be honest and have, this is what I think works.
Right.
Yeah.
I know why we got off the bullshit because you asked me if I was on TikTok and Twitter.
Yes.
And I said the answer was no because I'm not a very good influencer in that way. I just like to show up.
I don't know. Maybe we should see how far bullshit the clown can go.
I know bullshit the clown might have legs, but I just like to show up in my stories, show my day, and then post things that I think are helpful. And then I do a podcast.
Yeah.
And that's probably where I probably show up the most.
So, what is the title of your podcast?
It's called Fit Me Coffee Talk.
Fit Me Coffee Talk, and that's probably on all the Spotify,
It's on,
Apple.
and it's short. And so it's like usually
Yeah.
15 minutes long. And I've done, I think I hit 660 episodes.
Oh,
wow.
Shit.
So it started off with just wanting to show up in my Facebook group. So I had a Facebook group with all the people I was trying to help and fit me. Some clients, some not clients. I was like, I need to be in there like consistently. And so what am I going to do? So I attached it to something I do every day, which is drink coffee because I love coffee. So I was like, if I drink coffee, I'll go live in the Facebook group and I'll just give them some thoughts and perspective on something. That's how it started. And I started then like probably 10 times of doing that. I was like, well, I'll just release these as podcasts. And so I didn't have a mic, I didn't have anything, and I just released them as podcasts. And that became the podcast.
Okay.
And
so do you do that every like Monday through Friday morning?
Most days, it's probably like 4 episodes a week, probably.
Okay.
And when I listen to the old ones, they're kind of funny. They're like a little ridiculous, you know? Like your first episodes are...
We wouldn't know anything about that.
No.
We came right out of the gates.
No, but they're good because I think you are good at social.
Don't listen to last week's episode.
15 minutes.
That was my favorite one. Mike Zay, you're giving Mike Zaydong strength. I think you're really good at social media because like you'll post things of your podcast or just of little quibbits of your day and stuff. And it's like, I know your Fit Me community is more based towards women, but you'll give these little positive like stories and everything. And it's like, I feel better. And it gives me little motivation, and it gives me a different perspective on like, hey, maybe I was kind of bummed about something, but I think you do a good job of like grabbing people and posting those moments of like, you know, talking on a microphone when something's hitting and you're like, I'm in the zone. This is clicking. This is good and stuff. And it's just, I like what you post on there and your highlights and stuff.
Thanks.
I think it grabs.
I probably should post more of those. I have some more of the like clips from the podcast. But
Yeah.
they're really for everybody. I mean, at the end of the day, it's mostly just me talking about whatever it is that I feel like would be helpful. But at the same time, usually it's coming from something in my own life that's hard.
Got it.
And that's why they're good because it's like, it's
Relatable.
very relatable. Yeah. I think you do have a good knack at it.
The podcast reel that did the best was the one where I burned my face off climbing.
Oh, Jesus.
with your wife, Toby.
Oh, my God. Yeah, Jen came back. She's like, Christy didn't put on sunscreen. And it doesn't look good. And then
it wasn't
she
good.
turned her phone around and showed me the picture, and I was like, ah!
Yeah.
It's like, why didn't you? I actually got mad at her. I was like, babe, you're the expert here. You're supposed to tell all these people.
She felt bad.
Advice.
She texted me and she was like, I feel like this is partially my fault. I'm like, it's not your fault. I mean, like, at the end of the day, we all have to be responsible for our own stuff. And the real reason I didn't put sunscreen on is because the schedule changed. So I did Mount St. Helens a month ago with Tobin's wife and a handful of other people. And this was the biggest mountain I've ever done, hardest thing I've done. And we were originally supposed to hike in the first 4 miles, camp, and then do the summit and then out. But the weather was really bad. So then the plans changed, and the new plan was get there, sleep in your car, and then do the entire thing in one go. Yep. We were going to start at 3 a.m. Well, the weather was really not good. It was like 34 degrees and raining. Ugh. And so I had prepared myself to be ready for cold and a little wet, but I hadn't prepared for rain. And then I had my oldest, who I had convinced to do this with me, who had no idea what we were going to do. He had no idea. Like, I said, we're going hiking. We're going to hike a mountain. And I told him to look it up, and I got all the gear that he needed. He had no clue. I'll tell you about that in a minute. 14. Okay. But even that piece, I'll have to tell you how that went down. Like, so the reason that I forgot to put on sunscreen is I put it on Friday morning. We get there. We set up in the cars. I wake up. It's 2:30 in the morning. We're supposed to get ready to go, and it's raining. And so then I'm like, oh no, Logan's going to get soaked. We don't have the right gear. I started freaking out that, all of that. And it was cold and shitty and raining and dark. And I just didn't think to put it on. So then you fast forward like 9 hours later and you're like at the top of the mountain and it's finally clear and you're just suffering. Like every step is suffering.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it.
There's a reason I don't go climb mountains with her.
Yeah. And Logan, oh my God. So Logan's in really good shape. I mean, you've met Logan. You've all met my oldest. Yeah. So he's an athlete for sure. And I knew he could do it. I told Jen, I said, he's going to be in good enough shape. And he's at an awkward age where, hanging out with mom's not that fun anymore. So it's like, let's do something together. This would be like a cool thing we can do together. So
that's a memory forever.
Right. So I was like, let's do this thing. And he's like, okay, I'll do it. But he didn't know what he was signing up for. So we do the first 4 miles and I could tell he's kind of annoyed because I'd put him in a tarp. So he, he was like in his warm stuff. And then I put like this poncho over top of him because, again, the rain problem.
Yeah.
And it was kind of miserable. Like, headlight, rain, cold. It's snowy.
It's not kind of miserable. It's fucking
The first 4
miserable.
miles weren't up, though. It was just kind of a slow increase.
The approach.
Yeah.
Yes. So he's kind of, I could tell he's kind of annoyed. He's like, what are we doing here? And then we get to the base of the mountain and it's very clear what's getting ready to happen. He's like, we're not going up that. And I said, we are. And we made it probably the first chunk and he was like, I'm done. He was mad. He was like, what is this? Because it was hard.
Oh yeah.
Have you done it? Have you done
I've
it?
done
No,
Helens.
I
Yeah.
haven't.
Yeah.
Dude, I gave
In the
up half.
winter?
No, I did it in like the spring to summer. I made it 3/4 of the way up, and I told my dad, I'm like, I'm done. Just leave me here. Get me on the way home. He had to give me a 20-minute pep talk, and I'm like, okay, I'll make the rest.
That's really what happened with Logan is he started, so I was like in the back, and it was me and Logan and this other guy, Dave, who was doing an awesome job, but we were like the cleanup crew,
Yeah.
They waited for me, and they're like, you're going to have a walkie-talkie because you guys are so slow, but we were just slow, and so Logan started being like, I'm not doing this, and we had probably, halfway to go.
Yeah.
And there's all these false peaks. You've done it.
Yeah.
And so then I just started. So
Those
then,
hang on. False peaks are just a crusher.
Awful.
A mirage.
off the false peak, yeah, like
you're
terrible.
Like, we're there, and then you come up over the top, and you look up, and you're like,
And it wasn't quite clear, so it was like you get this
It
like
never
cloud. And you're like it's over that, and then it's
just
not.
around the bend.
It is
We're
not.
almost there.
Yeah. So he was like, so at one point he was like, he basically was like, "Fuck you, mom.
I'm done.
I am out of here. This is the stupidest thing." And I was like, "I'm not leaving you on the side of this mountain." And I was like, "Get up." And then I left, and I basically stayed for the whole last like 30%. I stayed in front of him and never let him catch me.
Yeah.
Because I knew if he caught me, then he would have that like feeling of being able to tell his mom like I'm quitting, and I was not going to let him quit. So I just kept ahead of him, and he never caught me. And then every time he would sit, I would just wait, and then I would just like yell down the mountain like get up, and then we would just go.
That's awesome.
But I
Good job,
couldn't let him
Christy.
quit.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
that was
awesome.
like the thing is like when you're 14, I'm sure like there's no mental place where you're prepared for that.
Yeah.
Like, and
Was
so
that willpower for you? Or did that feed you as well, knowing that you had to get him up as well?
I was more worried about the consequence of him quitting. I was like, what will this do to him if I allow him to quit?
Yeah.
Like he will have that memory, and now that could be a repeat pattern forever.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, the fuck if that's happening? I'm
Not on my
dragging him up
watch.
on this mountain.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Because and again, like I knew it was going to be hard. It was harder than I thought it was going to be.
I remember it to this day. I was probably 8 or 9 years old, and I had signed up for soccer as a kid, and I didn't like it. Like, very quickly realized like soccer is not my game, and I told my mom I don't want to go to soccer anymore. She turned around and looked at me and said, "You don't have to play next year, but you started this season, and you're going to finish this season." And that was one of those like set the tone for the rest of my life right there, and that has stuck with me through my entire life.
Yeah, and I know he was legitimately mad at me. I mean, he was really mad, but he made it to the top, and then I could see his mood shift.
Yeah.
Like he was
I
like,
did it.
yeah,
Because mom made him win, though.
and he won. I mean, he did it. That was
but
the best
like
thing.
you coaxed them. You're a coach. We
Right.
know what it's like to push people and
Right.
like get people to perform in the little mental games, but that's good. That's good parenting.
Yeah, he
It's
made
really good parenting.
Yeah.
Well, it's good parenting just to say, hey, let's go on this adventure.
But you also like made his mind shift. You didn't force him, but you played those mind games and you got him to the
did
top.
play with him.
And then once he got there, his mood changed, and it's like, fuck, I got a cool mom. She helped get me.
I don't know if he thought
achieve
that
this.
at that moment.
Yeah. But it's down there in the subconscious. That's something
Maybe.
he'll think about 20 years from now. Is I gave up when I was younger, but my mom helped me climb this mountain.
He did
She
it,
was tougher
yeah.
than me, and I wanted to pursue.
Well, the funny thing was, and he's not going to listen to this, but like he was supposed to carry the pack.
Oh, he emails us all the time. He's our number one listener.
The funny thing was,
she's going to be on.
he was supposed to carry the pack. Like we had made this deal because I only had one. I had one big pack, and then I had one like day pack.
Yeah.
Both were not the right size for this adventure, and I was supposed to carry the big one for the 4 miles, and we were supposed to swap. Because I thought he would be physically more capable to carry it up. But because I never let him catch me, he never had to carry it. So I got to carry it.
Maybe he was playing the game the right way.
I don't want to walk, Mom.
I'm getting too close. Better slow down.
But he really did. I mean, like, again, like, it's hard when you're 14. Like, you don't have that sort of, like, same rational brain to even understand when something's going to end.
Exactly.
There's, like, when's the end?
Yeah.
Never, you know? But, yeah, I was really proud of him. And so I feel like that was my favorite thing of the whole thing was just him doing it. And he was happy on the way down. Like, we got to slide down the mountain and do all that fun stuff.
Yep, that's a good time.
But, yeah, it burned my face off. Like, my face was not good.
Yeah, those were
rough.
I had to take a whole week off jujitsu.
Yeah.
I can't believe it was only one.
The doctor was like,
I thought it was going to be
you're not
3
allowed
weeks.
to go to jujitsu.
Yeah, no. Oh, it would have been.
You're gonna leave
it would
your
have been
face on the mat.
excruciating. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, you're going to get, like, staph or cellulitis. Because you have no skin barrier. I burned my skin off.
Well,
so.
I mean, imagine your skin already sunburned and then rubbing it on somebody's burlap freaking sleeve.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You know what hurt? It wasn't so much my cheeks. It was my lips
Yep.
and my lower nose.
Because it wrinkles and moves all the time.
That was something I was unprepared for.
My dad and I went on a ski trip to Snowbird, Utah, and I think base camp, or like where the base of the ski resort is, was at like 9,000 feet, and then you would ski all the way up to like frickin' 14,000 feet. Right, the gondolas would take you up there, and there was all these signs, and it said, "Caution, high UV warning." I'm like, "Whoa, that's weird. What do you think that means, Dad?" And he's like, "I don't know. It must be sunny up here," and stuff. And like, it looked like just a normal kind of overcasty day and stuff. And we had ski goggles on the whole time.
God,
and after 3 days of it, all of a sudden, I'm like, "Dad, my face hurts," and he's like, "Yeah, mine too." And we woke up on the 4th morning and we had blisters, like just our whole faces, but our eyes, like from the goggles, it was completely protected.
That's what I look like.
And so my dad and I were just like, "Oh, my face hurts. Let's go home early." And we boarded that plane and people looked at us like we were leopards because we had consistent blisters.
Lepers or leopards?
Lepers.
Okay.
Not leopards. Yeah. I mean, we had leopard spots. Yeah. But oh my God, those face sunburns take forever to heal.
Yeah, I don't think it's all the way. I mean, it's not normal yet because if I flush or like get, you know, whatever, you can just see the line of what it was. But that's okay. It was worth it. Like I said.
All right, let's call pee break.
Quick break. Could you imagine if you did coke? Like, and that was your drug of choice. Like Rogan kind of likes doing weed and podcasting, maybe a few drinks. But could you imagine a cokehead podcast? The commercial for whatever their sponsor would be 45 minutes long, and you would not know what they were selling.
Just
But it would,
details.
just happy.
But because it's America, it would probably be like the #1 rated podcast.
Yeah,
People
you're
would love
probably
it.
right.
Yep.
Yeah. TikTok. All videos of podcast of cokeheads.
Oh man! All right. Well, we're back, obviously.
I had a question. So with all the stuff that you've done, do you see a correlation between the two businesses and like where people struggle in their individual lives and businesses are struggling? Is there like, do you see like a commonality between the two of them?
I see a commonality in people. So a lot of the same things that people struggle with in their life around food, strangely, business owners are the same. They have their, it's the exact same thing. It's very weird. So for example, let me give you a perfect example. If someone is thinking about changing their lifestyle, like they're like want to be a Fit Me client. They're like, I need to lose weight. I need to be healthy. Right. Mm-hmm. And then I tell them, okay, let's do it. You want to be healthy. Like, let's go right now. And they're like, oh my God, I got vacation next week. And then 2 weeks after that, I have a thing. And so it'll probably be better if we start in like 6 weeks or 8 weeks. Like, it's just our mind procrastinating something we know is going to be hard. So we don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So we
Why
push
do
it off.
today what we can do tomorrow?
And so then I have to like put my coach hat on and be like, guess what? Like every season is like this. This is the pattern you've lived in for a long time. We have to do it now.
Yeah.
But we tend to actually have that same behavior pattern some people do in other places. So I've noticed, so if there's a crossover, not from like the business side, but from like the human side, is that coaches and business owners of any kind tend to have that same exact problem. I'm like, hey, I need you to go ahead and like put together your freebie and like, let's set this stuff up and get this thing going right now. You told me you need to get more people. You want to talk to the people you have. Let's do it. And then they'll tell me the exact same thing. Oh, but I got a vacation this weekend. And so then in 2 weeks after that, I'm going to do this. And it's like the same behavior pattern of like, I don't want to deal with something that's going to be hard, that I've never done before, that I'm likely going to struggle with. And so I'm going to put it off.
Yeah. Well, that's a human condition, right?
Yeah.
Do the bare minimum.
But then I have to be like a coach to them too and be like, do you hear yourself right now? You sound like a client.
Yep.
It's interesting because it's a form of work and discipline. And when someone can be super successful in their life and be like, I'm very high position and I'm smart in my job and my career and my business, and I'm used to putting in work. I'm working. I work 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 7 days a week. I invented the 9-day work week. But when it comes to sometimes your body and your diet and like working on yourself, it's the weekend. I got that vacation coming up. And I understand it. You're fucking worn out sometimes from work.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, is that the society we live in that forces us to like, yo-yo, work. I'm going to lay on the couch and just zone out to recover.
Well, I wonder if some of that is people don't have like a process. So work provides you a process typically if you're an employee. Yeah. So you have sort of this idea of what you need to be doing and how to go the extra mile. And because Americans have gotten so far away from proper exercise and diet, that nobody knows what to do. Like they're literally going, shit, I want to lose the weight. I want to change my life, but I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I don't know where to start.
Yeah. Well, you're just so not involved.
In that book, The Obstacle is the Way that we just read.
Yeah.
I think one of the chapters is on like having a process and understanding, like, I think he even used jujitsu as a metaphor where he's like, if someone has you in side control, there's a process where you have to start getting a frame in, getting some breathing room. And you just sort of have to trust in the process and kind of work your way through it, even though it's hard.
Well, that's why the process is interesting, because it's like I've been involved with martial arts and this stuff. And like as coaches, I don't care what it is. You coach or you be around people and you see someone, like I've seen so many young kids that are kind of getting into problems in their life and fucking up and being shitheads. And a parent throws them into jujitsu and it fixes their life so fast. One, they fall in love with it, but I feel like they're living a life and they're not able to figure out how to make the right moves or how to progress forward. And when you do something as simple as jiu-jitsu and you learn just fundamental base moves and you see progress, that you can stop someone from mounting you by doing this, or you can pass someone's guard by doing that. Like it breaks down life super simple and people want to get good at it. And then they try really hard to get good at jiu-jitsu and they start developing discipline. And once they get that discipline, they become better or kind of a phenom in the gym and they start to rise and they feel good about that. And now they're making healthy lifestyle changes. They're cutting weight. They're getting more sleep. They're exercising. They're trying to get more money and just better everything in their life because they saw just little truths in life through jiu-jitsu. Like those little paths of...
Well, it changes the way they approach the rest of their life, right?
But they see that hard work, putting in the work in the right areas leads to more success.
To an effect.
Yeah.
Right? And so they start applying that. I'm not even sure if they do it consciously. Then there's a handful of kind of younger guys I could name who are kind of, you just described what they're going through right now. And I don't even know if they realize that it's affecting the rest of their life. I think those just kind of become like, you just develop these sort of subconscious habits of how you conduct yourself when you're chasing something like that.
Do you think you're oblivious and just the practice and the art of doing it puts you on a path that kind of, without even thinking?
I think you're very intentional of putting yourself on that path for the specific sport. Like, they're all into jiu-jitsu, but like, even when I got out of the Army, like the best thing I ever did was start racing mountain bikes because it gave me some, like, I never had like these veteran issues where I think most PTSD is actually just a yearning to be back with the crew and to have a mission and have a purpose and feel like you're doing something valuable. I think the guys who commit suicide, they're actually suffering from a lack of purpose.
Did you read the book Tribe? It's such a good book.
Yes.
Sebastian
Yes.
Young.
And so, like, starting to race mountain bikes and taking it seriously, I always had a reason to be fit, to have a good diet. I was always, like, mechanically engaged out in the garage, like, wrenching on my bike, trying to figure out spring rates on the suspension, and just something to occupy my brain. And then the physical side of it, going out and training, actually riding these, tough technical tracks, trying to become a better technical rider. And then competing. And then competing was, you had this cycle where you're like getting ready for the race and then competing at the race. And then you go back into this cycle of repairing your equipment.
So was that making you a better person though, doing that?
I think it is. I think because you're being very intentional toward that sport, but then that way of living sort of becomes just the way you do things. So now I sort of approach...
but you see that working on your bike and putting in extra effort and work makes you better knowledgeable about it, more enthralled in it. You just get involved with it. If you're like, I love the sport, but I'm never going to work on my bike, that wouldn't work. That somehow just wouldn't grow and make you better as a person or kind of change. But you see people like prisoners, like what are we supposed to do with prisoners, right? We're supposed to rehabilitate them and give them a purpose. Here's a job. Here's something you can do. Drug addicts. This is in theory how I thought it used to work until what the streets look like currently. But it's like, if you want to fix a person, and that's what I mean with jiu-jitsu. I've seen so many kids that were getting into trouble and fucking up, and you give them something that they can put in work and see the reward instantaneously from that. They apply that throughout their life.
That's kind of my point. That now I sort of approach a lot of things that way, where like, think about like the classes at Training Northwest. It takes me weeks and weeks and weeks to get ready for each class because I'm out building barricades or making sure that the berm is kind of repaired a little bit, or tweaking or trying out and tweaking the different drills we run to make sure that they're sort of fit the theme of the class. And it's that like refit, prepare, mission, refit, prepare, mission. It's a cycle, right? Mm-hmm. And you can apply that to a lot of your life, whether it's sports, work, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting, like, bringing this stuff too, because we barely never.
Did I say refit, prepare, mission? I think I said refit, mission, prepare.
I mean,
I don't know.
I'm a civilian. I put stickers on. You can say it however you want. It sounds cool, dude.
Refit, prepare, mission.
Black Hawk down. I hear you, buddy. It sounds badass. But like talking about that stuff, we barely have a woman's perspective. And thank you for being a guest. And it's rare to see girls in jiu-jitsu. It's a more male-dominated sport, let's be honest. But there's something about the girls that stick with it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you get people that float through, but I told you downstairs you're cool, but
I've said all along, the one thing I love most about the gym is anybody who lasts more than 6 months, they have grit and they're not faking it.
Yeah.
You can't fucking fake it. So anybody who's been here more than 6 months and is still coming, it's like, all right, these people have true grit.
But not only grit, but you got bit by the bug. And I got bit by the bug in my early 20s. And I've kind of been on this fun journey. And to see girls that really like get enamored with it and also want to excel, and it kind of doesn't change your personality, but like your personality on the mat is a lot different from the first time you came through this door and the times that I've rolled with you.
Sure.
And it's fun. And it's like, I want to know why you've stuck with, why you started it and why you've stuck with it and what you like about it.
Yeah, I started it for different reasons. I think I started it because, one, for some reason I was fascinated. Because remember I said I started coaching CrossFit downstairs 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, Greg was upstairs.
Yeah.
So I was exposed to seeing all these like people
Weird characters.
soaked in sweat come downstairs. And I was like, what in the heck
looking
is
like
going
they've been through the ringer.
on up there? Yeah. And then, but I was fascinated with the idea of it. Yeah. Even then I didn't know what it was. And when I was
Did you know it was like ninja stuff?
no, I knew what it was. I knew it was grappling. I knew it was like that.
Yeah.
And it always bothered me that I had gotten in really good shape and that I felt like I couldn't defend myself at all, like zero.
All show muscles.
That's what I
no-go
felt like.
muscles.
I was like, oh, cool. I can throw 200 pounds over my head. That's cool.
Yeah.
But like, also, I can't defend myself at all. Zero.
I'm glad you have that realization, though.
That's growth. Yeah. But that's good.
But my original fascination was that I wanted to do it one day. Because even though I had kind of conquered some of my own bullshit around jujitsu, and again, I think all humans do this. We can deal with things in certain areas, and then other areas we're like, we go back to those bad behavior patterns. Yeah. So in terms of jujitsu, I was like, I'll do it one day. I can't do it because of my knee. And I had told myself that for years regarding exercise.
I'm going to be honest, that's a legitimate argument. But even more reason you're a badass and why you started and continued this.
That's why I didn't think I could do it, because I was like, my knee doesn't bend and nothing's holding it together. So I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
But I really wanted to, and the boys started first. And
okay.
So
yeah, that's right. Logan was in kids' classes.
The brief story is that, they started, and I was pregnant with my daughter, who's now 4. And I couldn't do it then. That was clear.
Yeah.
There was no excuses, but I got to watch. So what happened was I got exposed because I put my boys in it. And so then I would just watch their classes. And then I was like, as soon as I have this baby, I'm doing it.
Really? What? It just looked fun? Like,
well, I had wanted to.
But like when you watch, well, I guess you're just watching kids' class?
I was watching kids' class. So
was anyone good? Were there any good kids or like?
No, I mean, these were little kids.
Okay, yeah.
It was the beginning of kids' class, I think. So there wasn't a lot happening. But I had wanted to do it for years. I'd had this like feeling of like, you're in good shape, but you don't know anything about anything. And so I was like, I wanted to do it. And I also grew up very physical. Remember I said I played all the boys with all the boys. So I was comfortable with the play of wrestling. Yeah. Like my brother and I used to beat the crap out of each other. We used to play a game called Triangle with my sister, and it's like the last person standing wins. Like, so that was the play.
No way, really?
Like as a kid.
Yeah.
But
would you win it all as a kid?
Sometimes, yeah. I was oldest.
You're scrappy. Yeah. You're scrappy too. Yeah.
As my brother got bigger.
Did you guys play Smear the Queer in your generation?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
The Red Rover, all that. Okay. Beat the shit out of Jordan. Yeah.
They probably don't play Smear the Queer.
No, they can't say that anymore.
Yeah.
It's probably for the best,
My kids
toss them
came
that
in,
football and let them go, dude.
My kids came in last summer, and they're like, Dad, we were just playing this game at the park where, like, whoever has the football, everybody tries to tackle them. And I was like, oh, yeah, Smear the Queer.
Yeah.
And they were like, what?
But you can't say that.
I know you can't say this stuff anymore, but like growing up.
We kind of need to bring it back.
Yeah, we do.
I'm not saying bring it. I'm not saying bring it up or bring it back, but like, I remember I went to public school, like first, second grade, and I rode the bus. And I came home, and my mom's like, where the fuck did you learn all these words? And it was like, Smear the Queer. And I don't want to get flagged or anything, but dude, the stuff that you just learned that kids would say. Yeah. It's not like anyone was racist or anything. It was just, dude, they're little kids thinking the craziest fucking thing.
To be fair, I played that game. I called it that game forever. The part of me that's different now is my sister is married to a woman. Right. And so there was some point in my life where
I get it.
And then
please.
Right.
Yeah,
and so,
go for it. I don't care.
So the reason that I stopped saying that is not because of the word queer. It's because of the smearing of the queer. To me, I think of my sister and I'm like, do people really want to fucking smash her face because she's gay?
That's the thing is that's not it at all.
I got to go to the Eminem defense. Eminem defense. I'm not using it to say gay.
I don't think so either. So, but what I'm saying is that's why I don't say it.
By definition, is a queer person someone different from the others? So if one boy has a football and 5 don't.
But doesn't queer just mean odd? But
yes.
Yeah.
So society-wise, it means gay.
But what I'm saying is,
I hear you. I know.
I played that game. I said that forever.
Yeah.
But now I just think about things different because I just imagine if I said that in front of her, what she would feel like.
Just say we're going to play Hit the Heterosexual. It's my new favorite game, and it's awesome.
Smear the street people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hammer and heterosexuals.
Yeah.
Fucking breeders.
Fucking breeze. Oh, dear God.
I'm sorry. That got derailed.
Well, I
Jiu-jitsu.
took that way off course.
It's
I'm
fine.
sorry.
So, anyways,
As Mike would say, I'm sorry, Podcast America.
we were talking
Cruising
yes.
altitude.
So I watched them do jujitsu, the boys, my boys, and was pregnant. And then I was like, I still want to do this. This is a thing I want to try. And so after I had Georgia, I was 3 months postpartum. I started with the kids class.
Damn.
And I was
Were
very
you
much
eager?
No,
You were intimidated.
it wasn't intimidated. I didn't like it.
What year was that?
I don't
this was-
remember
You know,
when you.
that's-
Oh, sorry.
2019.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jordan. What are you saying?
I've heard that from two people now.
They didn't like it.
Didn't like it,
but
but
stuck
knew
with it.
they needed to do
That
it.
is my first 6 months.
You know what?
Easily.
I would say I did not like the first couple months of being a white belt because you're sore in weird places during the day, and you're just coming in here and getting fucking smashed.
Well, I
and you're
remember you were
you're
like, I don't know if I'm going to do this because you kept your back kept getting
Yeah,
just
it's like,
everything
well,
about you.
and then
was-
you have injuries, and it's like,
Such a pussy,
Fuck.
dude.
yeah, do I really want to be doing this to myself right
Yeah.
now?
the part that
No, you don't. No
But
one
you get
wants
through to the point where you learn to relax.
Yeah.
And you're not getting weirdly sore because you're not spasming out every single muscle in your body trying to do all that white belt spazzy shit, right?
I
Like
think
everybody did it. That's
You
the
learn-
other
you
weird
learn
thing
to
is
put
some
your
people
body in
don't
the
want to
right
admit
position.
that Mike Kozak had to have been a spazzy white belt at some point.
No.
I
Oh
can
yes, you did.
maybe
Spazzy
for
white belt was called middle school wrestling.
middle school
And I
wrestling.
got introduced in that, and then I wrestled through middle school into high school, and I quit.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
And
you
then-
guys
I don't
both
even-
wrestled.
I don't
And
even
then
remember that.
I started MMA at like 22.
Jordan was a spazzy white belt at like 3 years old.
It wasn't because it was like the first 6 months, like, yeah, you get hurt, like you said, and you're sore,
Yeah.
all those things. That wasn't the reason. The reason I didn't like it was because there was a certain degree of fear associated with why I joined.
Okay.
So I wasn't afraid to do the things. It was the feeling of like sort of dealing with that was the thing. I did not like it. I did not like being choked. I did not like being smothered or pressed.
You're like, this sport sucks, but I need to do it.
I don't know.
well, was it the defense thing? You were scared of.
Because you all shoot guns. Like, it's an
I
enabling.
don't shoot guns though, because I didn't shoot guns for the exact same reason. I was terrified.
I
Yeah,
have,
but you
I
did
have
that
video
camp.
evidence
You've-
that
yeah,
says you do shoot fucking guns.
And you did guns and geese,
No, but-
right?
Yeah, that
was the
last
exact- okay.
video that just went up.
These are
Christy,
identical.
You're shooting like a pro.
Listen, so
It's
this is
fucking
an
awesome.
identical scenario. Okay, so in both cases, I'm not like a particularly fearful woman. I say like I represent probably the average of like being aware that you're potentially like always in danger to knowing that like you should be self-aware, like, you know.
I feel it too.
Right.
I could
So-
only imagine, but yeah, that's normal. You should.
But because of that, I think women live in sometimes, not all women, there's certain things that just feel fearful, and it's easier to not think about it,
Yeah.
to not deal with
Block
it.
it out.
I'd rather
Yeah.
not think
Head
that
in the
that's a
sand.
thing.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, let me tell you. Yeah.
And so what I was aware of was the head in the sand. And that's what created the like tension there for me, because I was completely aware that I was oblivious to the universe and that I was always just the like perfect dodo bird to be a victim, because I really was. I was just in La La Land. I imagine everybody's awesome. Nobody's going to hurt me. I'm just cruising.
Well, I mean, in a way, that's just, I mean, we should, as much as we,
I hope
that
my wife
YouTube-
listens to this episode.
And I remember I picked people off at the side of the road. I'm like, get in the car. I'll drive you the place. I just have
shit.
and I did that when I was in my 20s. But like, I knew that about myself though. And so it was, that's what created the tension. I was like, you are just dumb, like moving through the universe. And so that was part of why I was like, I need to do something to be able to at least do the best that I can, like whatever that is. And so I always wanted to do jiu-jitsu. I was always wanting to learn to take care of myself that way. Pistols, guns, firearms, almost identical. Terrified, rather head in the sand, don't want to look at it, don't want to touch it, don't even want it near me. And the funny thing is, in the Navy, I had to carry a pistol.
yeah.
So in that, I think actually increased some of my fear around firearms because of my job in the Navy. I was a surface warfare officer, so I drove ships. So I had to carry a pistol when I was standing watch. Well, I got qualified.
Was it symbolic or did it actually have
Oh
ammunition?
no, it was a real pistol.
Wait, hang on. Did it have ammunition?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
it was loaded. So
Did you get training and stuff, or they're just like?
One day of training.
I mean, that's half a day more than you need.
Right. So I got taken out the very first time, and they would literally be like, "Here you go, ma'am," and they would like put the gun in my hand, and I would do the thing that I was supposed to do. Terrified of this thing because I'd never shot before. And then that was it. So there, my one day of training.
What was your job in the Navy? I'm sorry.
I drove ships. So I was a surface warfare officer.
You're a captain?
Freaking rad.
No, I wasn't the captain, but I was in the pipeline.
She was a captain. She was a captain.
I was
Captain bullshit.
I was in the if I had stayed in the Navy for a career, then yes, that one day that would have been like the path.
You were
No
on
way.
I was a baby, ship
So you got to
driver.
carry, if you pilot the ship, you get to carry a sidearm?
No, so not underway. So what it was is when the ship would pull into port, the officers had to stand watch on the where the ship meets the pier.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Somebody stands watch there.
Yeah.
Oh,
An
you'd be on
officer.
guard?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the insanity.
Okay.
The fact that I was on guard.
Yeah.
Here's a bazooka and make sure no one gets here.
A couple $100 million. Like, Christy,
One little
Christy, take this pistol.
23-year-old
We're giving you 2 bullets. Right?
They're like, here, no, it gets even worse. So like, that was my job, was to stand watch there. So I would go to the armory. I mean, I don't think any of this is like secret stuff, right? I'm like talking about normal shit, right?
Fine.
Like I would go to the armory and they would be like, here you go, ma'am. And I would like stick it in the holster. And then that was it. I didn't touch it. I didn't know how to handle it.
Was there one
nothing.
in the chamber, or they just gave it to you with
I'm
a
sure there
mag?
was one in the chamber because the only instruction we had was if you pull your weapon, you're shooting somebody.
Yeah.
Because we weren't supposed to
I
touch
bet
it.
there wasn't.
I guarantee there wasn't.
Yeah.
We weren't supposed to touch it.
All you
It's a
terrorists
Shogun.
listening, this is all it takes to get onto a United States surface warfare ship.
I'm about to get in a lot of trouble. But I stood top deck watch with a rifle. With
Yeah.
a shotgun. Not a rifle, a shotgun.
shit.
Not even a rifle, excuse me.
Oh, bird hunt? Where were you stationed?
Yeah.
Are we still in Florida? There's good duck hunting down there.
So that's all, like, point is that the fear of firearms came from carrying one, having no clue what to do with it, right?
Yeah.
And then I would
Knowing the
literally-
possibilities there and not having
Yeah.
the ability to deal with anything.
And I'm not representing the entire Navy here. Probably
Yeah.
people
I
have
You're doing a
other-
good job.
Special Forces, Christy.
People probably have better training than me. I mean, like certainly there are
I hope
degrees
so. Yeah, of course.
to which people carried firearms. I was the last. I guess what I'm saying, and he knows. Like, there's different levels of like
It's
exposure
just,
to combat.
this is your
I was
experience.
not.
This is perfect, though.
Okay.
I love it. No, this is a good. This is the
Right.
This is great podcast right here.
So, anyways, I would literally hand the gun back to the gunner's mate, and he would
I
clear
love
it for me.
like you're.
I was
Is that
terrified.
how you were
The way-
handling it too?
If you guys could see the way
Jesus
she's
is giving-
holding her hands, it's so good. It's
Pour it out.
I
Please,
would.
sir.
I was, like take
this thing away from me before it bites me.
That was the last time I touched a gun before I went to Guns and Geese.
You're shitting me.
No way.
No.
So,
that's
so
awesome.
was the Guns and Geese you did out here?
No, I went to
You went to
I
Louisiana.
went to
Louisiana?
Louisiana, and the reason
Ooh,
I went
tell
is
us
because I
the-
didn't want to go.
You went with Rachel, didn't you?
I did.
Tell us.
So
I want to hear this story.
I didn't want to go. I was not signed up. I was like, I'm not doing that.
Well,
And
real quick, guys,
Yeah.
Guns and Geese is run by Greg Anderson, who owns Electric North Jiu-Jitsu, where we're sitting right now, and his friend Greg Lappin, who owns a gym down in Louisiana, Vita Jiu-Jitsu, and they run a 3-day course
And
where if you register,
Joao?
and Joao,
Alice's
6-time world
Huntington
champion.
Beach, Electric Jiu-Jitsu out of Huntington Beach.
Yep. So it's an immersion course in pistol shooting, or I should say an immersion/beginners course in jiu-jitsu and pistol shooting. And it's well worth your time signing up. We're running a couple rounds out here this year in the Snohomish County area. We'll be shooting on the Training Northwest range and then rolling here at Electric North. So, Christy, go ahead.
With
Sorry.
a full sauna and ice
Yeah.
bath
Oh,
and
yeah.
an archery range and
Everything.
sign up, overbook it.
And we have a competition on night 2 to see who can rub Mike down in bear grease the fastest.
I have a massage table, so I'm looking
you
forward
go.
to this.
There you go.
Sorry, Christy. Continue.
No, that's perfect lead-in. I mean,
That's a good pod right there. That's a good co-host. We got a regular here.
so I went to Guns and Geese because I didn't want to go to Guns and Geese.
Yeah. Awesome.
That was the only reason. I did not want to go.
I'm
Again,
sensing a pattern with you.
yeah. And I,
Can I talk to you about cocaine?
I didn't want to go. I didn't want anything to do with it. And again, it wasn't like I was like anti-firearms. I just had this fear. I didn't understand them. I just was afraid. That is just as simple as it was. So,
once again, like saying I feel vulnerable as a woman. Yeah, you should feel vulnerable and scared around firearms. Like you're recognizing danger and addressing it, which is empowering you.
And then you put a gap though of exposure and not having exposure and knowledge. Then you've got like a recipe of fear.
Disaster.
Yeah, fear.
Well, so it's interesting you're saying this as a woman and having that that experience where I feel like it's almost polar opposite with some guys. Because there's like, oh, I know how to use a gun and I can grab this and I can do what I need to do. And I was that dumb guy that I'm 21 years old. I can have a gun. My mom's like, you're going to carry a gun. I was like, all right, Mom. You know, and just like, and no training for the longest time. And, you know, and guys coming into jiu-jitsu thinking that they can, I'm going to run the mat. I mean, look at,
you're right. There's like a, other side of the coin.
And it's cool to hear somebody like I was afraid of this and that's why I did it versus I'm gonna kick some ass in there.
It was bad the first session because they teach you all the safety things. They spend quite a while. Greg Lappin taught all the safety stuff, but then it was go time. And in my class there were a handful of people who were in SWAT, like law enforcement, like at higher, they knew what they were doing. Then we had like 2 or 3 like hunters geared up. I was like, oh my God, like this is
hang on. Don't judge someone's skill by their gear. Right. Because the guy who shows up in a flannel shirt and some blue jeans, he
is
might,
the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the first shooting that we did, and again, it came from a holster. That was also terrifying, right? Like actually having to draw a pistol if you've never done that.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of
a lot of moving parts.
Stuff as opposed to someone handing it to you, which is again what I had. Somebody gave it to me, right? And this is a whole different situation. Jesus hands here. But I think we did the first shooting drill because it really was like a series of drills. And I was shaking. And Greg Anderson stood behind me and he was like, are you okay? And he was not being a dick. He was asking me like,
hey, you okay?
He's like, are you okay? Yeah. And then, but I did it. Like I mind over matter, like I did the thing and just like put it back. And then I had an adrenaline dump and I cried. And I was so
You know what though? I've
cried on the range too. I can relate. It's an amazing experience, Christy.
The first time someone told me to go ahead and go cyclic on that 50, I let a single tear roll down the side of my face. Thank you, Jesus.
I hate that. Like it wasn't like I was like, oh, I'm so sad. It was an adrenaline dump and that expresses for me.
But I've seen that now.
Good for you. Fucking that's a great. You should push your body and boundaries and experiences like going deep in the woods, putting yourself in fights, like sanctioned, not on the street, like climbing mountains, these things that put fear in your heart, but you're still like, I'm going to rise to this occasion. That's how you build your warrior spirit. Yeah.
It's admirable. I see that a lot not a lot, but a handful of gals who've done the same thing in the ladies only class where a couple of them had never touched a gun before in their life. And so within, inside of 30 minutes, now we're putting one in their hand and then they're firing their first rounds down range. And the exact same thing where they had to like step offline and like have a little cry because it was just too much.
Adrenaline dump.
But then by the end of the class, they're the ones having the most fun because it's like they let it all out. They let all that fear go, like all that tension go.
Purged.
And then they came back to the line. And by the end, they're the ones with the biggest smiles. They're laughing. They're like, oh,
I need more ammo.
Yeah, exactly.
Give me more.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it is if you genuinely push through a fear, and women hate that, by the way. So just know that when they cry because of an adrenaline dump, it is the most infuriating thing. They are literally mad while it's happening because it happens.
A woman cries. I run to the next ridge.
I was just gonna say, is that the time to start poking little jokes at them?
No. What I mean is like when a woman is sad, that's one thing. She's crying. She's sad. When a woman cries because she's in an argument, she's mad at herself, that this is the expression of the emotion.
All right. It's a good tip. I'm going to go ahead.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Write that down.
Yeah, write that one down.
It is infuriating to women.
But all right, never
Maybe
mind.
more like
I'm trying to use this as a ninja skill. Sorry. Maybe I'm figuring things out
So-
about women.
So Guns and Geese.
Guns and Geese was similar to joining jiu-jitsu, was just dealing with my own bullshit.
Got it.
But I liked it enough that I wanted to do the second one, mostly for exposure again, because it was rifle and I'd never shot a rifle. Actually, same situation. I have shot a rifle. Someone handed it to me in the Navy and I qualified,
It's an AR-15.
Right. And then I
just
did
gonna
my
say- I
quals.
was going to ask, when you came out for the second one, was it more intimidating with the rifle, or was it just the same hump to get over again?
It was not the same hump. It was much
You got
more
it on
doable.
the first one. Yeah.
Okay.
And there was just bigger gap because with a pistol, I felt like after a few things, I knew what to do. With the rifle, I felt like there were steps that I had to remember, and the safety and the situations.
There's more
The
controls.
safety,
Yeah.
just learning the safety and manipulating it properly
Off
on
on,
an
off
AR,
on, off on.
it's its own task.
So there was
yeah.
like 3 things to do, and then I was like, okay, so but I did not have the same like big fear, overcome. But I did take that class so that I would be informed,
Yeah.
because I have
That's
people
a
in my
great- hang
life
on.
that I love.
Let me interrupt there, because that's a great way to put it. Is don't expect to go to a firearms class for a day or 3 days and come out of there as an expert. Expect to come out of there informed, and I think that's maybe the biggest thing we're dealing with like Second Amendment rights issues, is that so many people are just uninformed, so they hear like, oh my God, it's so dangerous. But when you actually, it is, and you hit on this earlier, Mike. It's very dangerous if a gun is sitting there and you don't know what to do with it, and you're not familiar with it and you don't know how to handle it. But if you are familiar with guns and you know how to handle them, and you have a few basic safety rules and just things that like when I pick it up, I check to see if it's loaded.
No.
That's what I do, regardless of, even if Mike just checked it before he handed it to me, I always check it anyway, just so I confirm. But there's all these things that you do that now it's not dangerous. And you can make the difference between whether that thing is dangerous or not.
Yeah.
And I have people in my life that I love dearly and respect on very different sides of that issue.
Oh,
And I felt uninformed.
But
and so
I would wager that they are also uninformed.
I think so, because
Do you
in my
feel-
mind,
Do you feel being in the Navy gave you like, I know it scares you, but you're okay enough with guns to do like shooting classes? Did that have?
I wasn't like a take away your guns person, but I was like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to touch it. I don't want to near my kids.
Yeah.
Like, because I was afraid of it. I didn't understand.
Yeah.
Well, and that's another point, is my kids know all these rules. So my kids know, there's a couple things. My kids have no reason to go to another, like when they're running around the neighborhood and they're in everybody else's house. If one of the other kids was like, hey, my dad keeps a gun in the closet, do you want to see it? My kids would say no, because my dad has guns and he lets us look at them anytime we want.
Yeah.
So mine are always under lock and key in a safe. But the rule is, anytime the boys want to get them out and look at them, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Because that way there's no stigma where they need to like go sneak around to somebody else. Like they're like, yeah, we've seen a pistol.
And
It's not that exciting.
my
But they
ex-
also know to leave.
Yeah.
Right,
Well,
to
so
leave.
then they know that. But then the last thing they do know is, if you come across a gun, leave it alone. But also, if for whatever reason you have to pick it up, what's the first thing you do? Open the bolt, see if it's unloaded, make sure it's on safe. Check that, you know what I mean? They have all these different, again, trust the process. Yeah. They have all these different processes, like if A, then B. Okay, that didn't work, now we're moving to C. Now we have to pick it up. Now we need to check it, check the safety. You know what I mean? They have these
Pointed in a safe direction.
They have these processes to just sort of work through that takes all the danger out of the situation.
Yeah.
That's why I think they should teach gun safety in schools.
Yes, they should.
They definitely should teach it in
100%.
schools.
Because you're going to come.
They should teach gun offense
use.
in
Yeah.
school. I hate to say it,
Yeah.
but
I mean,
Yeah.
that's that would take away some of the stigma. But I mean, there's people who don't want the stigma gone. But it would
Oh,
take
yeah.
away.
There's
would-
some who they're never going to change
Yeah.
their mind. But I think
Yeah.
a lot of people are more like what you were saying, where
It's practical.
you just don't know. And so that's why I took
But
that course.
are they not going
I
to
think-
change your
I
mind
think if
because they
people-
don't have that information, or are they not going to change their mind just because they're always going to be against guns? Or the people that are...
There's people that are ideologically against them that you're never changing their mind. But anybody, even if they're ideologically against it, you can still change. Hang on. You can still make them at least understand that it's not dangerous to them if you give them a foundational sort of safety and best practices handling course.
I have this like general hope for like the middle chunk of people to be like pretty reasonable.
Yes.
I really believe it.
The middle.
And so I think like when you are talking about extremes, just whatever, like just game over, right?
80% of us, like if you can show us practical examples, we're like, oh, okay. Yeah,
or if you could introduce someone to someone that you're like, and I know, like I told you guys, my sister, she's gay, but she worked in gay politics. And that's one of the things that she realized was most people, when they're like, well, how would you feel about this if it was your, whoever? All of a sudden it changes because somebody you know. So like most people are like reasonable when they start to think about it. They're like, yeah, actually that doesn't impact me at all. Like whatever, right? Yeah. So I think even with firearms, it's very similar. It's like there's a whole chunk of people who might fall right, like if you just asked them on the spot, nobody should have any guns, right? Like take those all away. It sounds terrible, but when presented with information would understand it differently.
And presented with practical experience.
Or exposure, or just a deeper conversation than like a stupid headline with things that are made to make people get riled up.
Yeah. Just no information with talking heads.
Right.
I actually have a conspiracy theory that guns will never be banned because it would be awful for the Democratic Party if guns were banned because it's a great platform to run on every 4 years. So if a gun ban were ever to actually go into effect, then Democratic candidates
I feel pretty banned right now myself.
You feel pretty banned?
Yeah. I think it'll get reversed though.
You can't ban them, but Pete, you have to admit, fucking people are abusing guns. There's something wrong in
there's
the
a mental
world
health
at
issue.
the moment
it's a
where guns are being
issue.
used as the tool of abuse.
Are you turning into Mike Zedong again? Because we're going to fuck you up.
Mike Zedong will always be here.
Put Mike Zedong back in his box.
No, I'm just saying, like, I love guns. I support guns. But it is a tool that people, through mental health, are like... And here's the thing. You're always going to have access to guns. You can't take the guns away from America. So we need more emphasis on the people that are doing these things.
Freedom comes with a heavy load of responsibility.
Yes.
And so
it's a burden. Heavy wears a crown.
If you want the freedom to own guns, then you need to be a responsible gun owner. And that means maintaining positive control of your shit at all times. Yeah. So like... I have my concealed carry pistol that's in my waistband, and it's with me when I'm out and about.
There's a million guns right
However, every single other gun that I own is in a fucking 400-pound safe.
Yes,
because
exactly.
They go two places. They go on me or they go under lock and key.
Yeah.
And there are no exceptions because that's how you be a, like
responsible gun owner.
Freedom is a burden, and it comes with a lot of responsibility. And so you have to manage that responsibility if you want to maintain your freedoms. And that's what's so frustrating about America today is so many people want to be dependent. They're like, fuck it, I just want my state assistance and my food stamps, and you're not taking the responsibility to actually provide your own life. And that's what makes you dependent on the state. And God damn it. That's kind of the reason I started training Northwest is I'm so sick of seeing people who because they don't understand a firearm, because they don't train at a boxing gym or a jiu-jitsu gym, they're looking to the police for their safety and their security. That's one of your 4 tenets of Maslow's hierarchy of needs: food, water, shelter, safety. Right?
Yeah.
And because if you don't have safety, you don't have any of the first 3.
Yeah.
And so many people are just. Their answer is, well, we would call the police. Yeah. Well, we would call the police.
How many? I'm sorry to interrupt, but how many? With what Christy was saying, like, how many people just don't want to deal with the anxiety and stress of learning those things?
Right,
because it's easier.
But the reality is, in the end, it alleviates stress because now you've added a capability and a tool to your toolbox to deal with the situation that's causing you anxiety. Mm-hmm. You went through something that caused you a little more anxiety, but in the end, you realize that this stigmatized firearm isn't that scary. Mm-hmm. B, now I know how to use it and employ it to my own defense. And C, now I've alleviated this overarching fear of being attacked or being harmed or just needing to provide safety for my family. Now you've alleviated that anxiety as well. So every time you pick up some sort of new skill, and it doesn't matter whether it's fighting with fucking bow staffs, nunchucks, or doing something at work, like becoming a better employee at work, because that increases your job security. So like when I was an electrical apprentice, I busted my ass to try to be, I was like, you know what? I want to be the best journeyman in the fucking state when I turn out, because that guy is valuable no matter where he goes. And I will, if I can be the best journeyman in the state, I will always have a job wherever I go. Yeah. Because you can't not have that person around. And so that just adding more skill to my repertoire, like more niche knowledge, like hospital systems or whatever specialized systems to my sort of repertoire, it just alleviated that overarching fear, because I came up through the recession. So people were getting laid off, and it was like, if you get laid off, you're not coming back to work for years because nothing's on the horizon. So it's like, man, if I can just be, so proficient at the job that I don't have to worry about layoff, then I can alleviate that anxiety of not having income.
Through a little bit more hard work.
Yeah, exactly. By trying harder.
Mm-hmm. You know what's funny is, like, you started your own business, and it's like, okay, I just need something to do. And you're, not saying you're not good at other things, but you're like, I know firearms very well. I'm going to start this business, and I'll get paid for firearms. But the more you talk about it and the more it grows, it is not like a gun training company.
No, it is not.
It is more of like teaching people like where shortcomings are, where efficiency can be increased, we sidetrack. We go everywhere.
I like it.
But that's where it goes into like the guns and geese and getting exposure. What you guys are not only showing through these like training, here's how to grapple, here's how to shoot, but it's also showing you like as much as you navigate this world and maybe you do great in certain areas, you're going to have deficiencies in other areas. And what you think you can do and what you can actually do are two different things. And the things that provide us the most fear in life are fear. Stronger people getting robbed, losing money, being a loser, all these factors. And when you expose yourself to these mega doses of things like a jiu-jitsu or shooting or climbing mountains or pushing whatever your hobby is, you're a bull rider, you want to become a doctor because you really want to fix people, or just you're pushing whatever it is. That's an aspect that doesn't get taught in school. It doesn't get taught in like you learn that on a wrestling mat with a team.
Stifled in schools.
Yeah, it gets stifled in schools. But you know what? You're that's perfect. I love everything you just said, and that goes back to like why you need to build your warrior spirit. And there's a handful of ways to do it, but all these. I've said from the beginning, we're not teaching firearms. We're teaching life skills using firearms as a medium.
Yeah.
And you nailed it. Yeah.
Once you find the pecking order in life, and the things like this kind of open up your eyes to where your abilities truly lie. And it's scary not knowing if you can defend yourself in a fight. Well, I imagine it's scary to, not know if you're going to have a job because you're not really pushing it to learn that skill. Yeah. It's scary. Like all those things are scary. And then like, because of that, people just kind of crumple, but when you push past it, like you're saying, you push past the fear and you got in there, and now like you're not going to be able to just beat the shit out of a 200-pound man. No. You know that, but you also know who you could or how you could potentially do that.
Yeah,
right.
I think
or just a moment else, to get away
separation.
From a 200-pound man.
Well, you found your limitations and you've seen where you succeed. So like it gives you that pecking order of where you lie in the world. Same with like a gun, like
awareness also. So when we talk about like concealed carry and how to keep yourself safe when you're out in everyday life, awareness is probably more important than anything. So even just having that awareness, like look at Jordan, be like, I can't fight that guy. That's actually, I've just elevated, like my tactical situation just got a little better because I just identified someone who I should not get in a fist fight with.
I think that's probably one of the things that I observed that I didn't know was going to happen from jiu-jitsu was the awareness of people's bodies around me.
Yeah.
Ooh, and that was like,
it, yeah.
because it was that's what changed, because before, again, like I was aware of it, but I couldn't do anything about it because I just lived in La La Land.
Yeah.
No, who was behind? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I just moved like that. I probably still do sometimes, but what changed from jiu-jitsu was like I could feel you there, and I couldn't before.
Yeah.
Or you were standing
awareness.
closer to me than I like.
Okay,
You're
what do
within
you think that
striking
is?
distance.
What do you think
Hang
that
on,
is?
I have a theory. I bet that, like, earlier Mike and I rolled before you guys showed up, and
Bear Grease.
Alone with the dark.
Jordan
dark
came in
room.
here
I came in. The
saying-
lights weren't on.
Lights were out.
The word "smear the queer" might have been used by Jordan, and I don't promote that kind of speech. So let's continue the podcast.
It's Cyndi Lauper on the stereo.
I was listening to Hall & Oates on the way here. I love Hall & Oates. Sarah, smile.
No, but there was a point where he went to throw a leg over to mount. Jesus. And,
I spend
but
a
was
lot
like-
of time telling people that jiu-jitsu's not gay, and you're
Yeah,
ruining
I
it
know.
right now.
We're
Hang
so
on.
gay
At
joke.
no
heavy.
point did we make eye contact. I want to make that very clear.
Yeah, you can't when your eyes are
But it was
closed.
like I felt his hip move, and I knew to throw my knee up and block his leg. Whereas it just takes, I think that through learning those physical cues where you're like literally body to body, that probably starts to expand your like extra physical sort of awareness.
You
of
start to
everybody
feel
else.
where people are like 3 foot away from you.
Yeah.
Have you ever watched someone who has like a physical capability but they are a true beginner, so maybe they're deadlifting for the first time,
Like
and then,
like a athletic white belt.
and then 6 months later they are lifting like a big amount of weight because the gap there was so big for them. So they make unusual progress, right? Because they started so far back.
Yeah.
And then that's what I felt like. I felt like I was super far back, like not even just regular amount. And so when I felt like all of a sudden I had some degree, I feel like even calling that a fact that I have situational awareness is like generous right now still. But I went from negative to feeling someone standing next to me or near me. That felt like night and day.
Yeah.
So what do you think that is, though? Because, like, you went from not having jiu-jitsu to having jiu-jitsu, and what you're doing is you're constantly getting smothered. You're feeling someone's energy and their strength. As much as you feel what they're doing, you know someone's tone or how they're coming into this role. When you slap and bump and you start to go, it's like you kind of feel what their energy is. And I hear what you're saying, like, eyes on your back, looking at you, just knowing where people are. When you get used to having bodies very close on you, you get a much broader picture of just people in the room around you and where people are. And is that just like you're not desensitized, but you know what it's like to have people around you? Or is that giving you more of an awareness of energies of people?
I feel like it could be 3 things, to be honest.
Ghost.
3. 1, energy, right? Like if you are just more aware of people, you can feel it.
We had an energy surge.
Yes, an energy surge. The first piece, so the easier one is reps. I just feel like if somebody grabs you enough times and you start to figure out like, that's what's going to happen to you. So, and again, if somebody pushes you enough times, you're going to start to feel like what that feels like. So reps, I think, turn into understanding how far away
100%
you are.
reps. That's everything. Yes.
But then the first thing, at least for me, and I don't know if men experience this the same way. I would assume that some do, depending on what their background is. But my first couple of months of jiu-jitsu were, again, they were uncomfortable because it's muscles hurt and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
But I literally had this huge fear spike.
Oh.
And I'm fortunate I don't have, knock on wood, I don't have any violent trauma in my past. But it didn't matter. If I was being choked, my heart rate went through the roof.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And so it was like this feeling of like, what's going to happen, and so the play of grappling felt fun to learn, but the submissions, I didn't even want anybody to try them. It was like, I'm afraid of submissions. So then as I got more comfortable with that feeling and dealing with it, and then my heart rate could stay lower, and that took months and months.
Stress
and months
inoculation
and months.
is,
I think that 90% 9% of people who don't come, like think about training and then don't come in, it's because of exactly that. Is they don't mind the grappling and the kind of rolling around and the sweating on each other. It's that fear of that moment where you're like, oh my God, if I know I'm in a gym and I could tap out, but if someone did this to me on the street, they'd kill me.
And so, yeah, I think it's that I'm not like that. The worse the submission, the less I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it to you. I don't want you to do it to me. I just didn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
It was that was my
Keep
first
the gun in the holster.
That was my first 6 months, honestly. I wanted to play. I liked the play of
Who
grappling.
were your first roles?
So it was funny because, again, I was doing kids class. So
What are you, Kramer from Seinfeld, doing karate over here?
so I would the guy teaching kids class, his wife was there and would often help.
Who'd you go with?
It was Joe's wife, Kat.
Joe. Oh, yeah.
And so I would learn with her, or there was usually at least one other mom who I could drill with. And then at the end of class, I would do roles with her.
Okay.
So when I was doing that, I still don't think I had the bug that you were talking about. And in as much as you're giving me credit for it now, of like putting myself in that uncomfortable place, I was not there yet. I was definitely just like, make myself show up, like probably not doing this, place. And then COVID happened. So then world shut down just for a little while, right? For, you know,
2 weeks. Yeah.
2 weeks around here.
That sounds about right.
But we were home for a couple of months before I reached out to Greg. It was early summer that I was like, I got to get these kids back in jiu-jitsu. Like, we've been home for a couple months now. Like, they got to go back. And so, you know what? It was even before that. It was a couple of months before that I brought them back for a class, like a impromptu kids class. And are you listening for something? Music? Yeah. It was an impromptu kids class. And at the end of the day, there was a situation that happened, and I don't really need to go into it. I talked about it on Tyler's podcast, and I always feel like I'm like gossiping or saying bad things, and I don't want to. But I had a confrontation with someone, and I'm the least confrontational person you will ever meet. And again, I told you I hate that. I hate it. And it was a confrontation with a man, and I felt very like unsafe and at the same time threatened, and I was so angry. There was nothing I could do, and I felt helpless.
Yeah.
And it was and I had been doing kids class, for a couple months prior to that. And it was in that like digesting of that incident that I was like, fuck it. And I text Greg and I was like, can I come to adult class? And I'm going to bring Logan, who was probably 11 then. And I was like, can I just come and bring him? And so then I just started coming. And then I never looked back. I just stayed with the guys and did class.
Yeah. And now, do you look forward to class now?
And so for a couple months, it still felt like I was in that beginner stage. I got hurt a lot.
Yeah.
To be honest, in the first 6 months, just dumb stuff. The same stuff everybody always gets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Busted thumb, jammed toe.
Yep.
Injuries that hurt, but like I could still train. The worst was just sitting out for the one class and then I would just come back.
Yeah.
So I got hurt a lot. That was a little frustrating. And then after that, there was just like a moment where I was like, I'm doing this.
Yeah. Okay.
Once you start feeling like you're actually doing something and you know what's going on, it starts getting a little bit more fun.
Yeah, and I think 2 injuries deep, I was like, there's no way I'm turning back now.
Yeah.
And again, I think that incident actually
Now that was
mattered.
outside of jiu-jitsu.
kind of.
So you've been here since 2019.
I've been here since 2019.
Okay.
So I've been doing.
Do you consider yourself part of the tribe? Because I do.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, for sure.
I wanted to make sure.
Did it sound like I didn't?
I don't know, because you're sounding sort of hesitant
No.
about training. But now it sounds
that
like
was
you're
the
all in.
beginning.
Okay.
That was the beginning, and that's what I mean. Like that, I really wanted to share that because I think some people think that, I'm going to either like it or I don't, and I don't think that that's the case. It took me at least 6 months to really be like, I'm going to stick with this, and it took a couple of like dealing with my own bullshit mental things to get to that place. And so my recommendation for people, if they're going to try jiu-jitsu, particularly women, is commit to a minimum of 3 months. Yeah. Not 3 classes, 3 months.
I think 6, because 3 months is where you're going to realize. For me, it was at 90 days. I was like, you know what? I can't beat anybody in this room. So what the fuck am I doing? Just relax. Understand that there's a long learning curve to be had, and it's going to suck for a while. But the critical point was relax. because then you don't go home with all these weird sore muscles, and you tap out, you reset.
Yeah.
And then
Let the ego go.
Exactly. You tap out and you reset. You go, fuck, that didn't work. And it just becomes this cycle of just try something different.
How long did it take for you guys to come in and realize where, like, truly assess, like, this is what it is. This is what I can actually physically do against somebody, like in a physical altercation.
Well, you learn that in your first round.
Is that,
like
I mean,
you're
but is
basically ineffective.
Oh yeah, instant. And you're like, oh,
I feel like it's every day. I still learn.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
Yeah.
Most days I walk out of here being like, why am I wearing a blue belt?
Well, sometimes I forget.
Yeah.
I forget. Like there's a moment that you forget because you're like, oh, I learned something.
Yeah.
And then you get reminded. And so I think
I'm sorry.
yeah, no, go ahead.
That fear that you had about, like, you know, a little bit of the physical world, or like, you know, was that just heightened right away? I mean, with walking in and then, like, all of a sudden grabbing a hold of somebody and being like, oh shit, like, or was it like, I'm new, like, because that's always what somebody says. It's my first day, you know, and they let you know, and then they come in and they're like, oh, I've only been doing this a week, and they're like, I'm new, and then it's like, oh, I've been doing it for like 6 months, and like, I'm kind of just starting, and you see this like relaxation, because like at first when people first walk in there, it's my first day, and it's like, I know it's your first day, like,
right.
You can tell, and then like then the next week, and then the next month, and then they slowly over time that the first day jitters kind of turn into like, well, you know, you're probably going to beat me, but, you know, and then slowly they just relax, and then all of a sudden people don't say that, and they just walk in and they're killing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird because you, like, I think you, again, depending on how you're starting, I think that's the thing is, like, I had a fear sandwich. I was afraid of my knee. I was like afraid of this like unknown, and then I wasn't terrified. I really did enjoy it. It wasn't like the firearm thing. I was terrified. Yeah. This was more like just dealing with my own shit. Yeah. Coming to jiu-jitsu, but I think again it's reps. I don't know if there's any secret to it other than reps.
Yeah. Nailed it.
And Mike, you said earlier, fear inoculation.
Fear inoculation, but reps is everything.
That
gives you
that's how you learn.
It gives you strength. It gives you flexibility. It gives you knowledge. It gives you everything.
But you can't know, like, oh, this is what it feels like when someone's way could kill you until you feel it, and then you feel it multiple times, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, like, I really understand this in this setting. And what I enjoy a lot about jiu-jitsu as a woman, and I'm about 150 pounds, so I'm like medium-sized, you know, muscle girl, but small frame. Yep. So when I get to roll, I know my partners typically, and they know me, and that's great. And I'm not saying I cherry pick, but I know who I'm comfortable learning from.
We all do.
It's smart. It's smart.
I've gone through enough injuries now to know that I was telling Mike this earlier tonight. I said, man, Monday it was a sea of white belts, and none of the I look for purple belt and above. Right. Not because I'm looking for a tougher fight, because I know they won't injure me.
Right.
Yeah,
and so
because they know when, like, that's enough pressure, I can stop.
Yeah.
And you get with I've heard Greg say, nothing more dangerous than an athletic white belt. Well, because they're going for fucking broke.
It's because there's two sides of that, right? There's the spazzy white belt that, like, they get you an armbar and they're gonna break it.
Yeah.
And they don't, like, you know, it's just I'm going for it. And then there's the people who come in and they're like so timid and they're so gentle. Yeah. And it's like, you need to. I'm
going to hurt you because I'm not trying to.
But
they're too soft.
They're too soft, but they don't know how to actually, like, apply pressure. Well, and they've never been rough their whole life.
This is why you should let your kids wrestle.
Yes.
Well, the funny thing is that, so you can cherry pick your rounds, I guess, but you can't cherry pick rotations. Yeah. And so whenever we do rotations is when
I love rotations.
Kind of. You can't even be like, hey,
I look up at the ceiling.
It's not my turn, it's his turn. Yeah.
Tying a shoe, no.
But that's usually when I get my reality checks. Yeah. Almost always. Like, it's not that I ever think, oh, I've got it now. I'm very aware. But those are the moments where I still feel the panic that I didn't want to show up. will show up in those moments because they're white belt dudes that are outweighing me by 60 or 70 pounds and they don't know how to control their hand strength or their body weight or their arm strength. So then, or their speed. That's another thing they don't know how to control. And so in those moments, I'm reminded that I still have that spike. Right. And so then I get to bring it down. Like, and those are the moments where I'm like, just sit here and be smothered for a second.
When it's all good. You want to go?
No, well, just that is the biggest gain I think you can get from jiu-jitsu is having that fear, being able to step away from it, find a place where you're okay, and then deal with it. Like, and then that can happen in a split second, but like being able to control the fear now. You know? And having like, oh, this is a bad sticky spot. And because I get it all the time. And it's just like, oh, and sometimes I get it when it's like, why? Like, I shouldn't have this. And because there's times where I'll go and I don't feel it. And then all of a sudden there's times where it's like, son of a bitch, like, where did this come from? And that anxiety is just like, oh no, like this is not good. And then it's relax.
I disagree. Mike Zedong disagrees.
Oh no.
I think fear should be part of it because it's like I started MMA and I had a very good understanding of wrestling and grappling and stuff like that. Like I wasn't a spazzy white belt, but I never did striking and stuff like that. And I was alongside with newbies, white belts, pros, everything. I saw the whole gambit. And going to that gym and starting MMA, it wasn't scary, but it was stressful because I saw the consequences and what was happening. And it just instilled, like, I would get off work and get ready to go to the gym, and it wasn't anxiety, but I felt like, oh boy, I got something big about to happen.
A little adrenaline surge.
And that's never worn off. And something that I appreciate about this gym is it's full of animals. And I would come here to, like, I knew when I get off work,
tough white belt holes here.
Get off of work and I come home and it's like, all right, getting ready to go to jiu-jitsu. Got to take a shower and everything. Well, it's going to be some heavy rounds. And you know what happens? My tummy hurts. And then you know what? I have to take a dookie. Because that is an internal fear response of your body preparing for war.
Yeah.
When you have a big
Fight or
event,
flight.
you get signals in your body.
Yeah.
And when you know that something so big that you're about to do grappling on a Friday night and you're going to get choked and murdered and you know you love it and can participate and you can fuck up a lot of people, but there might be someone there that's going to have your number and they're going to give you the worst night you've had in the last year. Yeah. And it sets off a fear response, but you end up going.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You get that and you learn to work through it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's huge.
But that fear's good though.
Oh, I'm not saying
if you
it's
didn't
bad.
have that fear, then where would that scaredness? Where would that lack of preparation of being scared? That fear is something you have to embrace. You should constantly be fearful of guns. You should constantly be fearful on the street. That's a way you should look at life. And I think that's not
living,
a bad
for sure.
thing.
Oh, no,
it's
not at all.
Recognizing.
No, not at all. And that's what I came off like. That's not what I meant.
No.
What my thought process is like when I'm rolling with somebody that I can beat and all of a sudden I get put in a funky spot and then it's like, okay, I put myself here. Let's try and work out. And then it's like, oh, I can't. Oh, no. And then all of a sudden you manufacture that. And then it's like, oh shit! Like now I have to calm down, work through your stuff.
Yeah,
like that is huge, and because that transfers to life. That transfers to life so easy.
Being calm when a boss yells at you or you screw up at work and you try and remain calm and figure out a way to deal with it. You could panic and
Jordan and I deal with it all the time in construction where schedules are tight and then something doesn't work out and it's like, oh shit. But you have to okay, slow down.
It's just life.
What is the process here? Yeah, we talked about a couple of weeks ago having to pull cables back out and it sucked, but it just had to happen. And so you don't cry about it. But what I am going to say, we're at the 2 hour mark.
I'm fearful of a podcast that goes too long.
No.
Work through it.
What I'm saying is, do you guys got to get going, or can we take a pee break and come back?
It's getting late.
I can text my kids and see if they're doing all right.
All right, let's call it a pee break for now.
Okay.
If we got
If we don't come back, we'll see y'all next week.
yeah,
And we're back.
We're back.
touch a button.
Yeah.
Heard that from my wife.
Sound check.
Touch a button. Never found it.
Never found it,
The button?
brother.
It's mythical.
I've been married for
Isn't
15
it a
years.
legend?
I can tell you a few secrets.
Wasn't that the first Indiana Jones? Call him all, find the button.
I don't know.
What?
Short stack?
Short? Is that what he said?
That wasn't the first
don't-
Indiana Jones.
Yeah, the first
No.
one was Raiders.
Crusade.
Yeah,
The Penitent Man.
No.
The Penitent Man.
Yeah.
that's the last Crusade. The first one was Raiders of the Lost, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Raiders of the Lost
Yeah.
Ark.
What did they do on the first one?
It's the not.
It's
the
his
Germans.
dad.
They're looking.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
I like
No,
the
no,
Last
Penitent
Crusade.
Man.
His dad.
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery.
Yeah, the Penitent Man. The Penitent
That's
Man.
the last one.
No,
I like
you're
the
right.
Last
You're
Crusade.
right.
That's the last Crusade. Is Sean Connery.
Yes.
Temple of Doom is calling
Temple-
law.
Oh, that
Yeah.
was scary.
This is good pod.
Yeah.
I like arguing about Indiana Jones. Keep going. What's the first one then? What did
The
they do?
first
in
one
Raiders
is
of the Lost
Raiders of
Ark.
the Lost Ark.
Raiders
It's
of
the
the Lost
Nazis,
Ark.
and they're going after
Where
the Ark of the
the
Covenant.
guy
Yeah, dude
pulls out the
burns-
sword and he
Yeah.
pulls out the gun and shoots
Yes.
him. That's
It
right.
has
Okay.
Miriam in it, and
Fun
she's
fact.
hot as a $2 pistol.
Fun fact. That scene, he was supposed to have a big fight with that guy.
Yeah.
And they were out there and it was too hot. So he was just like and pulled the trigger on this guy. And they were
best
just like,
scene of the
"Oh, that's
movie.
what we're gonna do."
Best
Yeah.
fight scene ever.
The guy gets out, does his thing, and they had this big fight plan, and
No
that's
kidding.
how it ended up.
All right.
yeah,
I like that.
funny.
Bad dates.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
Little
right.
monkey.
Little monkey. Yeah. All right. So we talked about guns and geese, and then so my company, Training Northwest, one of our more successful programs has been our ladies only foundational pistol course. And Christy was part of the first one. So you came out there after going to Guns and Geese, correct?
Yes. So
you were already coming out with a fair amount of training.
yeah, I felt like I was excited to do your course because I wanted to practice and not, So I had done the Guns and Geese, which was pistol, out in New Orleans, and then I did the rifle version, the second one.
Yep.
And so then yours was shortly after that,
Okay.
I think. And so I was excited to get to do that. There was a lot of women there that I knew were that was their first day, or they maybe even had a concealed carry, and they just were super uncomfortable with the fact that they had that, and they just wanted practice.
Yep. And the number of people who actually do carry a gun who don't have any sort of comfort or experience. Are you guys raising your hands?
Well, not anymore.
No,
But that's
not
what,
anymore.
you know.
But that's how I started.
Right.
Yeah.
I got a pistol and I thought, hey, I
This is
conceal
it.
carry.
Yeah.
What's anyone gonna do with me now?
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there was a mixture of women. I felt like I might have had the most experience out of everybody
You
there.
probably did.
That's
Yeah.
good though.
I was
Good.
like, okay, well, I guess I'm not the terrified beginner now. I can at least practice what I learned.
Yeah.
But I think there was a mixture of women who had maybe had the opportunity to do shooting once or twice before.
Yeah.
Then you had a couple brand newbies.
Yeah. Then that was it was the first ladies class. So it was the first time we'd had brand new ladies out, and the first time we'd had a few cry. And it was a little bit of learning experience for Dave and I, but
I'm sure.
Thank God he and I are pretty chill, and that's
Yeah.
kind of that's actually something I should say is we don't run these courses with like drill sergeant type attitude or teaching style. Like either
you cater to the individual very well.
Yeah,
That's in the group.
our our teaching style is pretty calm and relaxed and sort of I'd say like focused and fun. And I think that goes over very well in the women's classes because I think they come out expecting like people to be barking at them and like, get that.
Yeah.
But really, we just kind of talk.
Yeah.
This is about my tone. I don't.
Dude, you should have that General Patton outfit with that leather writing prop and
That would
big
be
American
amazing.
flag
Yeah.
backdrop
Yeah.
and tell about the course
Oh
for the day.
goddamn, that would be awesome.
That'd be amazing.
But I actually wanted to ask the question.
Sure.
Does that teaching style go over well in the female classes?
Yes, I think there's most women don't want to be babied.
Right.
but at the same time, it's like a slow down.
Yeah.
Is what they're looking for.
Okay.
Yeah.
In that kind of setting, because it's the speed that's scary. It's like, you just told me what to do. I'm supposed to know how to do it, but I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so if you're patient, because you're like, okay, you look like you're not ready yet. Do you need a second? Do you want to practice? Go through that one more time. Like, that tone is exactly right.
Yeah. And I don't know if we nail that, but we certainly try for that.
No, but it's not only women. It's like, I don't care who you are. I've gone to gun ranges, Kenmore Gun Club, and I mean, when someone's salty and yelling at you because you're not doing something up to their code, or it's like, listen, man, you're not helping me and you're not helping this process. What I need you to do is calmly relay information and help me, navigate what's going on at the moment.
Yeah.
Is there a rule that's being violated? Are my thumbs in the improper position? I think that's anyone is you want clear. That's what coaching and being.
I think like anybody who is trying and being safe, deserves that level of patience and help. And then I think you're totally justified if somebody was being an asshole or not paying attention or screwing around. I don't care if they're male, female, whatever. Like, you can be like, get the fuck out of here.
Reprimand,
Oh, 100%. But if, the tone of everybody there trying to learn and they're just nervous, not everybody can adjust that, level and bring it down to it's okay.
Yeah.
It's a skill, and that's why the jiu-jitsu thing, I applaud it, because when you learn to adjust those things, it's not easy, and that's why it's admirable, is because it's not easy. So that's what puts you in those situations, just like what you've done your whole life. It sounds like you're doing all these things that put you in an uncomfortable situation, and then you continue to push through it to get to the other side.
I am so scared of snakes. There is no way I'm ever going to find myself as a snake handler.
Whatever.
It's like, I'm going to address my fears.
6 months from now, Christy will have you holding a python.
I know. I'll coach you there.
He's going to be looking like the Britney Spears music video.
Your sister will be killing alligators, and I'm jumping on pythons off a fan boat.
I don't know. I don't know that you have to conquer all of your bullshit, but if it's holding you back in your life and it's somehow limiting you and costing you something, you better deal with it.
That's a good perspective. I like that. If it's something that's hindering you from getting to a point you want to be in, it should be addressed.
Yeah.
Think of all those snake
It's very
wrestling
reasonable.
matches you're missing out
Like,
on.
you might not need to deal with the snake problem. It's not really holding you back.
Not at all.
You want to do.
Gardeners, I mean, I dance around my garden when there's gardener snakes, but other than that, I still manage.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm so scared of snakes.
A real Indiana Jones thing.
Come on, short stack.
All right, guys. I think that was a short return from the pee break, but I think it's a great spot to call it. Christy, what is the Fit Me Nutrition website?
So if you are interested in learning more about Fit Me, it's fitmecommunity.com.
Okay.
And then the other business that I talked about, where we're helping businesses,
Yes.
is coachingbizmanager.com. Like
Okay.
BIZ manager.
Got it. And we will put these in the show notes, and I have a suspicion that Christy Campbell will be joining us again at some point
That'd
in
be
the
fun.
future.
Yeah, I'm down anytime.